Sir Benjamin Bach. How are we doing today? We have a lot of exciting games coming up.
Yeah, doing well, Jules. It's great to be back for another weekend of collegiate chess.
Absolutely. And we have some exciting things planned. I know last week we looked at one of the lower divisions as well, so we're going to be doing that again this week. And then coming up, we also have Yale versus Mizzou. So lots to take a look at, but we're going to go over this match format if you're new or just joining, or maybe need a little bit of a preview.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
here we
So,
have
Jules,
4
take it away.
versus
What is the
4
format?
team chess. 4 versus 4 team chess. All boards are going to play each other. The time control is 5+2, and first to 8.5 points wins the match. It's going to be 1 point per win, half point per draw, and tie breaks if the score is tied, but we haven't seen that yet. We're going to go over who's playing and what's going on shortly, so I'll hand that over to you, Ben.
Yeah, no, we have some very exciting matchups, and yeah, like I said, no matches have gone to overtime yet, but who knows? Maybe we'll have that today. We have some matchups that are pretty even. I mean, first we have Arizona State C against University of Michigan B, and then we'll have Yale against Mizzou. A big matchup in Division 1.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. We've seen Yale versus Mizzou before, and Mizzou tends to come out on top, but Yale has been a huge contender lately. So I'm wondering if they're going to show us something new. But first, we have this matchup. I believe it's Division 13. Am I correct there?
Yeah, Division 13. Last week we watched a matchup from Division 15. So we're slowly but surely moving up, but yeah, should be a lot of fun, and it's a great opportunity for these players to play on broadcast. Usually we only focus on Division 1, but I hope they call in their family, their friends, from their classmates, told everyone like, hey, we're gonna be playing on broadcast. Everyone, make sure to watch and send in that energy. But yeah, Yale against Mizzou, it's gonna be a big one, but I think Mizzou should definitely be the favorite there.
Absolutely. And that one could decide what we're going to see in this upcoming season. Also, as you said, I think I told this story last week, but my first time playing on a stream like this was really exciting. So, for a lot of these players, it can be a lot of intensity, a lot of nerves, but we'll see what they're able to do here. Do you want to take us through the board assignments?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So here we have ASU, Arizona State University. On board one, they have Kara Kumar, then Brian Marmo Lejo, then we have Rohit, then we have Rikin. And for University of Michigan, we have Arun, we have Bala, we have Jeffrey, and Philip. So as we can see, University of Michigan is slightly outrating ASU on the top boards, but ASU is outrating University of Michigan on the bottom two boards. So I don't know, looking at these lineups, I would say perhaps ASU is a slight favorite. They're more well-rounded on all of the boards, whereas University of Michigan, they might be vulnerable on those bottom two boards. So what do you think, Jules?
It absolutely could be, but when you see ratings like this, anything can happen. I mean, one day you could just wake up and you could be playing a little bit better than your opponent, and they're all very evenly matched, but it does seem like one team could be the favorite. I think we'll see though as the games progress how they're playing today, what their style is, and if they choose to play a little bit more aggressively or maybe take a more passive approach.
hmm Yeah, and as we speak, we are off. The game between Philip and Kara Kumar has started. So we see e4, e5, and knight of 3, and here Kara plays knight of c6. So let's see what Philip has in mind. He goes for an Italian opening, and Kara plays usually he plays knight of 6, inviting the fried liver.
Hey guys, I wonder if we're going to see the fried liver. Also, a lot of people don't know their fried liver theory, and it can get a little bit embarrassing if I'm being honest to get stuck with that.
Yeah. No, I honestly, when I saw knight of 6 and white was pausing, I figured that Philip was not going to go into the fried liver. I feel like people that like playing the fried liver, they jump on the opportunity. They'll play knight g5 right away, but as soon as they pause, it's probably better to play a slow game with something like d3. And we see Kara playing h6, making sure that white can never move a knight or a bishop to g5, and followed by bishop c5. And we see Staffy Philip doing the same by playing h3 now. In the meantime, the game between Huang and Marmolejo on board 2 has also started off. There we see a London system. And the game on board 3 between Sanjay Ganesh and Jaramilli has also started off. There we see a dragon. So lots of exciting action, Jules.
Yeah, and you know what's a little bit interesting here is I always say you hardly ever see the open Sicilian at lower levels, but sometimes maybe the ratings aren't 100% accurate. Sometimes players at lower levels don't play as much blitz and play more classical. Sometimes, they're just logging on for the first time as professional. So I'm wondering if they've prepared specifically for this match.
Yeah, no, you make a very good point that some players, they might not play as much on their accounts. Maybe they have a different account to stay anonymous. So it's hard to say whether these ratings are completely reflective of their strength. Yeah, we have some exciting matches, and we see on board three some interesting stuff by wow. It was already interesting, but Jared Milley goes for a pawn for a piece sacrifice, but I don't think this works. I think you can just take the bishop and play f3, preparing to slide the queen over to g2, defending the king side, and that's what Sanjay does. I think Jared Milley was a little too aggressive there.
Yeah, that is one that you see all of the time though. And here's the thing. Sometimes it might be a bluff, it might not work, but it can be really hard to follow up with. Although it does seem like your Millie's king is very well protected there.
Yeah, I wonder if Black just
Or
missed the
sorry,
move
yeah, it
f2,
would be
f3. I
Ganesh's
mean,
king, yeah.
yeah, I wonder if he just completely missed that move. I mean, now just queen g2, and I don't know. Yeah, it looks like White's just up a piece, and Black really doesn't have enough. If you go queen d7, by the way, White can start an attack because that pawn on g6 can just be taken because the pawn on f7 is pinned. So I think Sanjay is just winning here. Queen takes g6 looks like GG to me. Let's see if he will find it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's actually the tactic that a lot of players set up there, having that bishop on the line. I think he'll find it, and he does here. And now all of a sudden, the black king is completely defenseless as well. I don't know, and you're just up a
Mhm.
piece.
Yeah, so say I think Sanjay is going to win his game, but in the meantime, we have this game here between Philip Staffy and Kara on board number one. So Kara also went for the setup with bishop e6 and queen d7, perhaps preparing to sacrifice the bishop on h3, which is why Philip played the move king h2. Safety first, queen d2. Black's also like, no, you're not sacrificing that bishop, king to h7. Yeah, these players really seem to like
Copycat.
to sack that bishop like that. Yeah.
They should, like I'm saying, even if it doesn't work, sometimes it's worth a try. But they were saying, no way, I don't want to deal with that today. Not on this 5+2 format. Although sacrifices work a lot better with 3+0 than 5+2.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, when there's no increment, I mean, when your opponent sacrifices a piece, it's likely that you're going to have to spend time to find some good defensive moves. But like I said, a 3+0, you can't spend too much time because if you fall too far behind on the clock, you're just going to lose on time. In the meantime, we see Philip has played the move knight to e1, moving the knight back, but perhaps preparing the move f2, f4. But I really like what Kara has done. He strikes in the center with d6, d5. If your opponent moves away from the center, it's usually a good idea to play in the center. And that's what he does. And, the pawn on e4 is under attack. It's not so easy to defend it. You can play f3, but that defeats the purpose of the move knight e1. So I like what Kara has done.
Yeah, that's actually quite a high level move and quite a high level concept as well. Because if you don't open up the center like that, sometimes you just get steamrolled, especially in these kinds of positions. But it's hard to find the right time to do it. Something I struggle with as a player. It's something I know some other people around my level struggle with. So we're seeing some good chess here, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely good chess by Kara. Yeah, all right. So here I like taking with the a pawn, just opening up the a file for the rook. You can also recapture with the knight, keep your pawn structure intact, and he takes the a pawn. And now I think it's time for white to develop. So perhaps a move like knight to a3 looks a little clumsy, but then I can jump back to sorry, not there, but a c4 or c2. He goes bishop c2 instead, eyeing the king on h7. So perhaps now is the time for black to deal with it, maybe with a move like f5, gaining more space in the center.
That makes a lot of sense. And, I'm really not loving Philip's position here. I mean, it just feels like there isn't really an attack coming, and your pieces don't have a great place to develop. So it seems like this is more of a positional disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So bishop f5 by Kara, blocking on the diagonal makes a lot of sense. The computer gives it a question mark, but it seems a little harsh to me. I mean, it doesn't blunder any material, but it might throw away some of the advantage. We see a3 by Philip. In the meantime, Jules, so we talked about all of the action on board number three, where white is just winning. There's also a lot of action on board number two between Huang and Marmalejo. So perhaps we can go to that game.
Let's take a look. Absolutely. Oh, you're really talking about action here. Okay, how did that knight end up there in place of the rook that Huang should in fact have? Yeah.
I think, White had a bishop on e3, but he just hung the bishop and it was taken by the knight. And not only did he hang a bishop, he also hung a fork. So let's go through that game and see what happened. We have it. Give me a second. Um, Give me a second. We have the game. Wait, give me just a second, everyone. Should have the
And as
game
we're taking a look
somewhere.
there, also Marlajo isn't even castled. He's just taking material, no fear. And it's one of those rare situations where the side that's not castled is actually safer than the side that is castled. So I love seeing that there on the board as well. All right, looking at this game, this is like one of those positions that you just take a look at and you're like, what happened here?
Yeah, so let's recap real quick what happened here. So this started off as a normal London, so d4, b5, already some interesting stuff by black. I went for the London setup, pretty
Yes,
normal. White
absolutely.
plays in the center, which I kind of like, but it does concede a d5 square. Um, and now bishop e3, okay, g4. But here White made this terrible move f3, not only hanging the bishop, but that also creates a fork for the black
Oh,
knight. So
my. Good
yeah,
gravy.
black happily,
That is not what you want
black
to hang.
happily took it. No, absolutely not. So Black is up a full rook here, and I expect Brian to win this game, which will push his team ahead.
Yes, absolutely. And hanging a piece, sometimes you can come back from a piece hang. It's possible. Hanging a piece with a fork, now that is rough. It's really just going to see if he is going to be a little bit out of form for the rest of the match as well. But
Hmm.
that is not a strong start from Brian, or sorry, not a strong start from Huang. But you know what? He still has time to redeem himself. And at this level, which is why we love watching D13, anything can happen. There's always comebacks.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, like I said, I mean, coming down from a piece behind is already a lot, but down a rook is really a lot. So, but you never know. You never know. So let's see. Jeffrey is still fighting. Now he can jump forward with his knight, attacking the pawn on f7. That's what he has to do. And it would also threaten a little fork on c6. But yeah, it's a lot. Being down a rook is a lot, but you never know. So we'll see how this game will develop.
Yes, absolutely. We'll see how that game will develop as we're going on. Maybe time to go back to bird's eye view whenever we can. And until then, yeah, as we see what's going on here, Ganesh's position looks great. Looking here on board 3, wow, this was the board I believe that we had the piece sacrifice and then found a really nice tactic with queen takes g6. And here it just looks like the king is going to get mated sometime soon.
Hmm. Yeah. No, let's see what's going to happen. Yeah, the Sanjay
And
is doing
then,
great.
oh, by the way, on board 4, you might be like, Jules, Ben, what happened? There's not a game there. Is this a DGT error? It is not. It seems that Arizona was late, the board 4, so he was forfeited for this round. Now, I would like to point out that it is, in fact, a Saturday. So it makes us think, what was this player doing on their Friday night? Well, perhaps their teammates will be able to answer that, but hopefully they will come back soon and they will not forfeit another round because it's very, very hard when you're playing with a player down.
It truly is. Yeah. So tough loss there for Shaw and for ASU. Yeah, no, like I said, if you're down a player in the team, like let's really hope for ASU he will be able to join later. Because if you're down a player, you are essentially down 4-0 in the match, which is hard to come back from. So I think they really need him because yeah, this matchup is pretty even. In the meantime, by the way, Jeffrey really is fighting, I feel, because now he's only down a bishop. And black is getting low on time, so that one is not completely over yet. In the meantime, by the way, Kara also doing great work for ASU. He's up a bishop. So both Marmolejo and Kara up bishops on board number 1 and 2. They should be able to get some points on the scoreboard. And Sanjay doing great on board 1. So even though they're down a player, they might win this round 3-1.
That would be crazy. And now Card, he was the one who we were really impressed by his play. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a little bit underrated there. So I'll keep an eye on him for the rest of the time and see how he plays. But we also have another result where Ganesh has won there. So point for Arizona, which again is needed, and and counteracts the forfeit from board 4.
hmm Yeah, Sanjay evening up the score. It looks like Marmolejo should win on board 2. Again, he's up a bishop. But, again, Huang is fighting, and Marmolejo is getting lower and lower on time, and Kara also just completely winning on board number 1 up a full knight.
Yes, absolutely. I see we have some fans in the chat here. I see a huge game from Shaw. Amazing. So, guys, if you have a college that you're rooting for, team or person you're rooting for, feel free to put it in chat. We'll try to shout it out. But yeah, this is 8 seconds on the clock here with Huang versus Marmolejo. 8 seconds.
Mm.
Do you think that he can pull this off? That would be crazy after hanging off what, a full piece and a rook?
He hung a full rook. Yeah, he hung a full rook, but he is fighting extremely well right now. Actually, the material is even because look at this. Black is an extra bishop, but white has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns. Black has 3, so white has 3 pawns for the piece. Pawns are considered to be worth 1 point, bishops
Oh,
3. So the material is actually even. So he's doing an amazing job fighting, especially because Brian is getting very low on time. Brian is still better though because the bishop is a very strong piece, and he can maybe now start to create some threats on the king side. But
absolutely.
he's
And the
got 1
only
second. Got
issue
to
here
move.
for Jeffrey, the biggest
Move.
issue for Jeffrey is he doesn't have the easiest attack. However, he is up on time. He has to move his skill flag.
You gotta move, dude. You gotta
A
move.
moment
But
of
he
silence
lost on
here.
time.
A moment of
I.
silence. And that just shows you, chat, anything can happen. You can hang a full rook in the beginning of your game and still come back for your team. So that's what we love here about CCL.
hmm Yeah, no. Jeffrey fought amazingly well after he hung that rook. I mean, he kept fighting, kept putting pressure on Brian's clock, and yeah, Brian. I think what Jeffrey was doing there at the end, he was almost pre-moving, right, keeping the pressure on Brian's clock, and it was just a little too much for Brian to handle. Perhaps he's not too used to the 2 second increments, and Jeffrey won. So amazing fighting spirit by him.
Absolutely. And we're going to take a look at these next round matchups because we're not even taking a break. We're going straight into it, which means the players also don't get a break. We're going to see board 1 versus board 3, Kara versus Jeffrey Huang, who had that great comeback. We're going to see Brian versus Philip, board 2-4. We're going to see Rohit versus Varan, and Rikin versus Bala here. So it's 2-2. What a score for the first round. And that's especially with the ASU
Absolutely.
forfeit. Do you think their board 4 will be back?
Let's see. Let's hope for them he will be back. But it's. I mean, I feel like ASU is doing pretty well. I mean, they should have won this round 3-1, and they were down a player. So if they can get their 4th player in, and if they can get their stuff together, I think they should have a good chance of winning this match. But let's see if Rikin will be here for round number 2.
Yeah, we will see. And again, that is huge. I almost wish they could substitute in a player because I feel like it would be very funny if they could just like grab their neighbor or something and be like, hey, could you play? But
Yeah,
unfortunately,
just grab
that
a
is not
random
how
guy
it
from
works here.
college, from campus.
I just like find someone walking who looks like they don't want to go to class and just pull them in and be like, can you help out for a second? But unfortunately, yes, that is
Yeah.
not how it works. But I mean, maybe they could pull off pretty much the impossible and still win this match with the player down. What do you think?
I think it will be tough, but it's definitely not impossible. And we saw again, like they tied this round down a player. They should have even won it. So it's possible, but it will definitely help for them if Rikin will show up. But let's see.
Yeah, and we have
Oh,
someone in chat Sabam saying they are here, but internet issues. So perhaps that is the case. Also, we have someone rooting for ASU here in the chat. So very exciting stuff. And we're going to see the games getting off to a start very soon. And E4 best by test, a Caro coming in on board 1.
hmm All right. Okay. So let's see. We have a car. No, actually, on board. Yeah, we have a car. I thought it was a Jobava London because I missed the first 2 moves, but that trade took place. Now, I would say the knight on c3 is usually slightly misplaced because you might want to push your pawn to c4 or your pawn to c3 to support a d4 pawn. And we see Huang developing with bishop f5, bishop d3. So now we see a trade. White perhaps looking at a move like queen b5, forking the pawns on d5 and b7, it could maybe be an option here, but he can also just develop calmly with a move like knight f3.
Yes, absolutely. And the board 3 will also be starting shortly here. We'll take a look. Excited to see what they play. But yeah, an Italian is very, very calm in these kinds of positions. Sometimes you see a more aggressive kind of like D4 line or something, but I think they're just going to play very slow, very easily. And it's a pretty good opening to pick, I think, at this level, because you just have to try to slowly play out your opponent, and you're not going to hang something like a rook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we see that both players put their pawns on h3 and h6. So who knows if we'll see some bishop sacrifices again. Philip with the black pieces, he went for an early queen to e7. So I wonder if he's delaying. He's delayed kingside castles for now. In some cases, you can go really aggressive with g5, g4, and attack that castle king on g1.
Absolutely. We see a D4 opening here, I think is the first D4 we're seeing in this round. I predict a London. That is my
Hmm.
prediction.
Let's see. Sanjay hasn't moved yet. It's been almost a minute. Wonder what's going on there. Maybe he was just so happy after that first round win, but it's like a game by game, and round number 2 has started, so he needs to move. I don't know what's going on there.
Yes, absolutely. He does need to move. Do you think he stepped out for a break? I do know that sometimes we have breaks
Perhaps.
between rounds, but these are not one of the rounds that we have breaks, so that
Hmm.
should not be the case. But yeah, that would be two Arizona forfeits.
Hmm. Yeah, and I see the game on board number 4 also hasn't started yet, so I wonder what's going on there. Let's hope that Shaw has made it to his laptop and is able to play. Okay, so let's see what's going on boards number one and 2. I feel like board 2 is looking pretty even. White having a knight, black having a bishop. We see board number 1. I feel like Wang is quite comfortable there. He is having the typical Caro structure, putting some pressure on the queen side. The knight at a4, again, is a little bit off. Usually that's why you don't develop the knight at c3, but you develop the knight at d2. So I would give Jeffrey a slight edge here.
Yeah, and I was even thinking, even if you do want your knight on c3 temporarily, which, like you said, you don't, you probably want the c3 structure. You could even move it back down to e2 and then try for some sort of rerouting, but it doesn't look very strong there on e4. You don't have the outpost of c5 because they can always just kick you away, and there's really nothing else to do.
Hmm. Yeah, no, the knight is definitely off on the a4 square, and you really want to play c2, c3 at some point to strengthen the pawn on d4. Also, make sure that the c pawn is never hanging. But the problem here is if you play c3, you kind of cut your knight on a4 offside. And right now, moves like knight a4 would actually run into a tactic like knight takes d4. So I feel like Jeffrey is doing well. He's also up on time. And by the way, Jules, as we speak, the games on boards number 3 and 4 have lifted off. On board 4, we have another Caro-Kann. And on board number 3, we see this kind of started as a Catalan, but Black being very creative with knight c6, d6, and b6. I feel like White should just be better because he has a big center.
And this is such a power move for Ganesh here, being like, you know what, I am fine being down 2 minutes. I'm just gonna play on. I don't think it was on purpose, which makes it even worse. But if he manages to come back from that kind of time difference, that would be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we see Shaw. He has been able to make it to this match, but he is now down on time. It's only a minute and like 15 seconds though. But Jeremy putting some pressure here right out of the opening, going for an early take on d5 and bishop c4, and we see the trade on c3. So now White has the hanging pawns, meaning that White has more activity in the center. But given the fact that Black has two pawn islands, usually Black has the potential to be better long term. So let's see what's going to happen.
We'll see what's gonna happen there. I really do love board two's pawn F pawn, even if it's
Mhm.
not exactly the best here. But I feel like in these positions you can try to be aggressive. I'm just saying the king looks so safe. The black king looks so safe there, and it's a little bit frustrating if you're Marmolejo because you feel like you should have something breaking through. But maybe it was a little premature to do that pawn trade.
Right. Yeah, and I definitely felt early to trade on g6 because that pawn on the 5 was giving White a big space advantage, and you can always trade when the time is right. So let's see how Marmolejo is going to follow up. In the meantime, I like what Ramanathan is doing on board number 3. He has a lot of space, and I feel like especially at lower levels, people really struggle when they have less space, and they the, really have to maneuver very carefully. So we'll see how Sanjay is going to manage that.
Yeah, it's really tough when you have not enough space because A, you're always going to look for those pawn breaks to help you. And B, a lot of times what players do in these positions, especially in classical or at higher levels, is they just maneuver around until something happens and they can break through. But patience isn't exactly easy in blitz. Also, the hardest moves to make are the ones that don't come to you immediately, where you have to just kind of maneuver around and think for a bit.
Hmm. Absolutely, yeah. No, maneuvering is definitely something that's not easy. All right, so let's see what's going to happen. I feel like, oh wait, we see on board number 4, the evil bar jumped all the way up. I wonder, oh wait, white can take on c6, b takes c6, take on d8. Like is forced to recapture with the bishop, because if you take with the rook, you hang the bishop on e7. And then there's bishop a3, trapping the rook on f8. So perhaps we can show that real quick, what's happening on board
Yeah,
number
that is quite
4.
the
Let me,
tactic.
and white missed it, but let's show that to everybody. So instead of queen b3, also, by the way, at this moment right here, white could have taken on c6 as the blue arrow is indicating. So let's show why. So black is forced to recapture. If you take on d1, white can recapture with the rook. And now if you take the bishop, you take the bishop on e7, and white's up a bishop in the endgame. So if we go back, black probably had to take the bishop right away, and now white takes on e7. So if you take with one of the rooks, you hang the bishop on e7. Again, white's up a knight in the endgame and is winning. And if you take with the bishop, and this is probably what both players missed, there is bishop a3, trapping that rook on f8, winning a decisive amount of material. But it was missed.
Well, I wonder why that was missed. Hmm? That's a very complicated tactic and it's a little bit difficult, but those are the things that players can definitely see during the game, even at any level. It just, if it doesn't come into your purview, it doesn't come into your purview. Sometimes moves, whether you can calculate it or not, just need to show up in your head before you get them. But yeah, this
Mhm.
position is still looking pretty decent, but there's a lot of life on the board.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, people always ask me, like, hey, how do I improve at this rating? Like, how do I get a 1600 to 1800? How do I get from 1800 to 2000, et cetera, et cetera? But I always tell people, like, hey, do tactics, do tactics. I feel like tactics help you at any level, and that's how you see these opportunities faster and faster. So, yeah, I wonder if the people are actually listening to me when I give them that advice. But white is still
Do you
better
think they're
here,
just
and
tuning you out?
Bishop f4, that is a big opportunity, and he finds it. So I feel like Bala should win this game now, as he's winning a lot of material.
And we've just confirmed that he's definitely a Benjamin Bach viewer, has been taking his advice, doing his tactics, obviously.
Taking
And
notes, taking
yeah,
notes.
that should be a decisive advantage, but not always. Like it should be a decisive advantage.
Oh, bishop e5, tricky move right here, because
Ooh,
if you take the bishop right away and take on
interesting
c7,
defense.
black is the in between check. But look at this. You can go rook takes e5. Because if you take the knight, then we take on c7. If you take the rook, we then take on e5. And we not only have two bishops for the rook, we actually win more material as the rooks are on the same diagonal. And if you would take an f3 first, we take with the bishop, and that would protect the queen on c7. So rook takes c5 here wins. Let's see if he will find it.
Yes, absolutely. But this is probably not a move that he was anticipating, but it's one that you're forced to calculate here, which is why he's taking his time. It's a really good thing that he managed to gather some time advantage. I think he was at 3 minutes before this, and he didn't find it. Oh,
No, but
oh no.
no, but now that's a big mistake. And now black is better if he goes for bishop takes f4, because if you take on c8, black recaptures, and then black has a bishop and a knight for a rook. And you might think like, well, I have this move rook d7, right? Hitting the queen, threatening this. But I think black might have something like bishop h2 check, king h2, and queen f4, defending the pawn on f7 that way.
That is brutal. Some nasty behavior there. But those are all very complicated lines from both sides. So there's a chance that both just kind of bail out and play something simple, but it's a little bit hard in this position.
Mhm.
Usually you do favor that knight and bishop versus rook, though.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. So, yeah, calculation is something that's definitely not easy. But what I always tell players is that when there's a lot of tension in the position, you have to look at captures, like your capture for you, capture for your opponent. And then after all the dust is settled, you do the material count. That's why I don't like bishop g4. It's not a capture, and it was a big missed opportunity. But black now has to find bishop takes f4. Not that easy, and he's getting down to 40 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, it definitely is not that easy to do, but he might just do it to bail out, and then sometimes you get lucky, you get the move, and then the calculation comes easily after. But what is he going to do? He only has 30 seconds, and this might be even worse than just going for something. When you get down to this time, you could be up a rook and still lose.
Hmm. He has to find it though. It's the only move that's not only winning; it's also the only move that's not losing. And he's getting very low on time. I feel like, I mean, everything else loses, so that's probably how you stumble into the variation. But let's see, it's under 7 seconds. That's when these players are probably going to panic.
He just needs to move. He
Move.
just needs to move. And does he see his clock? Is he going to flag? Is this going to happen? Was that a flag?
He flagged.
Oh, our second flag of the day, and I bet he was just frozen at the board trying to calculate that and didn't see his time. That is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. And we see a win there for Michigan. Going into the other boards, Michigan's also crushing on board one against Kara. Huang must have gotten some confidence from that comeback in the last round.
Hmm. Yeah, I like what he's doing here in his game. He just went for rook takes e6, sacrificing material. Oh, and now queen e1 is game over. And he finds it. Yeah, so Huang winning his game for Michigan, and that's going to push Michigan 2 points ahead.
That is quite the advantage, especially coming into round three. I mean, I'm not sure if Arizona can come back from that.
I mean, I think I definitely can, but yeah. So we see on board number two, Marmolejo is winning, so he will bring the deficit back to 1 point. What's going to happen on board three is quite critical between Ramanathan and Sanjay. If Ramanathan wins that game, that means that Michigan will be 3 points, no, 2 points ahead. But if Sanjay wins, it will be all even.
Whoa.
Hmm.
Okay, going up
And
here, we have
right, so I think Varun is just going to win this game. He's up the exchange and now can collect the pawns on the queen side, which would mean that Michigan would be 2 points ahead going into round number three.
yeah, I mean, that is quite the decisive advantage. As you said, a comeback is indeed possible, but they're really going to need to bring their A game.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, 2 points is definitely still doable, but we're past the halfway point, so they need to come back sooner rather than later. Looks like this one is in the back for Varun. D2 can be met with Rook D5 or Bishop
Yep.
F3, and that is going to be a 2 point lead for University of Michigan.
Too slow, always too slow with that pawn promotion. And as we see, that point is going to be going through. We're going to be getting that lead. And Arizona might need to adjust their play a little bit coming in. I bet they wish they had that extra point from round one.
Hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Every point matters. So we see that Michigan goes ahead. They're 2 points. They're leading by 2 points. So let's see if ASU can come back. They look pretty strong in round number two, but Michigan looking really convincing in round number two. As especially if we look at the scoreboard
And
right
here
here,
we
Jules, we see that Jeffrey Huang, board number three, is on 2 out of 2. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is very impressive there. And as you know, we also see that the board fours have yet to score a point, but they might coming in because they're going to be playing slightly easier boards as we go up. But ASU will need to make up these 2 points in either this round or the next one, otherwise it's over. So
Hmm.
everybody, we have a lot of life left in this match. I think ASU could in fact come back, but before that, we're going to talk about our sponsors. Susquehanna is a quantitative trading firm and a CCL sponsor. They believe the skills you use in games you play, like chess and poker, can translate to skills you'll use in the world of trading. Susquehanna is currently accepting applications for Discovery Days in their Philadelphia, Dublin, and Sydney offices. Some Discovery Days are virtual, while others are in person. Transportation and accommodation can be provided if needed. During these events, you'll have the opportunity to meet employees, play games, and explore what a career in the quantitative trading industry could look like for you. Check out the Susquehanna career site to apply at go.chess.com/discovery. All right, everyone, we're heading to break. Stick with us. We'll see if ASU can come back in round three.
Do you want to add to your resume and earn up to $1,000 too? Chessable Research Awards are for you. Head to chessable.com/research_awards and apply today. The application is 10 questions long and some questions are easy, like what is your name and what is your email address? Application questions also ask you to tell Chessable about a chess-themed research project that you want to begin or about chess-themed research you're already doing. Past winners' topics include detecting chess cheaters and scuba diving in chess. Applications are due by May 15th and winners will be announced on June 15th. If you win, you will work with a faculty member on your research, then submit a blog post about what you accomplished. So what are you waiting for? Start your application today.
Were you ever leaning towards asking me to help you for the candidates?
Yes, I did consider it.
No, not just consider. Like you were about to do it versus not do it. You just didn't think about the question, but you were like, at some point in time, you thought like, I'm going to ask him. Did you have that moment?
Not exactly how you put it, but I gave it more serious thought than you think. Yeah.
No, I think you gave it very serious thought.
Okay, maybe then less serious than what you think, but yeah, I did consider it.
True.
It was not entirely my decision.
Was Surya against it?
Something like that.
The backstab, yeah? Surya sir, you know, we've been known each other for many years. No, but it's fine, it's fine. I mean, I know Daniela has got my back, so. Now, some career-related questions. Would you rather win Olympic team gold, which is what you have done, or individual gold at Olympiad on board one?
I think team gold. Individual medals are not as
on
worth.
board one.
Yeah, but it's
no,
not.
But think about the whole thing. On board one.
Yeah, I would still like.
No, but it means that you are playing on board one. Plus, you have the medal.
No, I would feel good, but it doesn't hold the same value as team gold. Like team gold.
I'm calling BS.
True.
Wow. Nationalism in there, yeah?
Of course. I mean, it has much more
Wow.
value than an individual gold.
Respect. Are you intending to retire from chess in the next 5 years?
It's likely, but it's a thought that comes and goes. Like, I'm not certain.
Seems true.
What do you plan to do after that?
Something less stressful.
Yes.
Okay, true. Do you think you are lazy?
Sometimes.
Yes, you think so?
Would you call yourself greedy, like for money?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as philanthropic as I should be.
Yes, he is.
Is meditation the main reason behind your good results in the past 2 years?
Not necessarily. It's a catalyst, but not the main reason.
It is a significant reason.
Yes.
Hello everyone, welcome back to CCL. We have our match with ASU versus Michigan, and right now ASU has to get some sort of comeback here if they want to win the match. So, do you think they can do it, Ben?
I think it's definitely not impossible, but yeah, Michigan definitely in the favor right now. They're 2 points ahead, but it's still very much an open match. I think ASU they can definitely do it. I think they're board 4. You know, he missed round number 1, board 2, in round 2 he blundered, but if he gets it together, I think they definitely have a chance.
Definitely do have a chance, and you know, sometimes breaks help you reset. So we just gave them a little break there. Maybe they did a little pep talk with their team, and we'll see what they're able to do. But in the meantime, we're going to look over which player is playing who in this coming round. So we're going to see Kara versus Bala, the board 1 versus board 2, Brian versus Varen, Rohit versus Philip, and Rikin versus Jeffrey. board 4 versus board 3. So a lot of the boards are playing someone a little bit closer to their level.
Absolutely, yeah. So big matchup there on board 4. I feel like Rikin, he started, again, he missed the first round, and then lost round number 2. Jeffrey, he's doing really well as the board number 3, as he's 2 out of 2. So we'll see what's going to happen. And like you said, some very evenly matchups on boards 1 and 2. So yeah, let's see what's going to happen. I feel like for ASU, it would be nice to even the score or maybe even get ahead. But at the very least, it would be nice for them to cut into that lead a little bit. If they can win this round by 1 point, that's already going to give them better chances going into the final round.
Absolutely, but there is also a chance that Michigan is able to end this round here and now by getting 3.5 more points. It would be very difficult, but it's first to 8.5. So it's not about the individual rounds, but the overall score.
Absolutely, and as we speak, we are off on board number 1. We see Yarmili opening up with the Italian. So let's see what Kara is going to do. He plays... Let's see, he's going to go knight f6 and provide a fried liver. He goes bishop c5. Another main move, and we see c3. Now, white can still play calmly with c3 and d3, or more aggressively, if he follows up with d4, creating action in the center right away. But black's main move here is, strictly speaking, the move knight f6. You have to attack the pawn on e4. Otherwise, white just goes d2, d4 unhindered.
Yeah, and they take that center. You're forced to move back, and all of a sudden, the game could be a little bit rough. All right, and that's exactly what we're seeing happening here.
Yeah, this is not supposed to be good for black. You're really supposed to play knight f6, because then, again, white cannot build the center that easily. But we see black putting those bishops on g4 and b4, putting a lot of pressure on the white center. But white has the center, so we'll see how this will play out. But as the evil bar is indicating, white definitely has the advantage here.
That move might have been made because you want to be able to take the knight, but yeah, there are too many tactics around that. And now we see the move that you suggested, knight d5.
I think black has already almost lost here. I mean, the queen's under attack, the pawn on c7 as well, which would create a devastating fork. The only move you have to defend is queen d8, but already then white can consider stuff like knight takes b4, knight takes b4, queen a4 check, checking the king and attacking the knight. And if you go knight c6 back, you go d5, attacking the pinned piece, which wins material. So yeah, let's see if Bala is going to go for it.
And it seems like he has the same idea, slightly different order, but still looks like a completely dominating position from Bala.
Yeah, queen a4, powerful move, attacking the bishop on b4, which is running out of squares. Black can take on f3, maybe forcing white to recapture with the g-pawn, but I don't see an immediate way to attack that king on h1, on g1, sorry. And bishop a5, there's always bishop b5, creating a lot of threats still. So yeah, black's opening has not gone the right way. And yeah, so let's see if Bala can punish him and perhaps get a quick win here for Michigan. That's going to push Michigan even further ahead.
I mean, it's definitely possible. If I were playing with the black pieces here, if I were Kara, I would absolutely take on f3, because when you take back, at least then you have an open king, and everyone is susceptible to some surprise tactics when they're down on time. So I feel like that's the best way to create some sort of counterplay.
Absolutely, yeah. Take on f3 either now or a little bit later. He goes queen d7 instead. Okay, so but knight takes b4 is a free bishop. Let's see if he'll take it.
Yeah, I think that will happen here. Going into these other games, it also seems like in board 3, Ganesh seems to have quite a little bit of an advantage here. I believe... Let's take a look. The position is just extremely uncomfortable. I was looking if they're actually a piece up or something, but maybe just the position's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, now Sanjay doing great here with the white pieces. He's putting a lot of pressure, and knight takes b5 now is a big threat. If you recapture with the pawn, it would run into rook takes a8, and you lose a colossal amount of material. So I don't know what you do here with black. He goes bishop b7, white can now take, also hitting a c7, perhaps bishop d8, but looks really bad for black. Yeah.
Look at that. It looks like he's been doing his puzzle rush lately. Finds it, knight takes b5, and all of a sudden everything is falling apart. You don't quite have time to castle. And this happens to slightly lower rated players. It happens to me. It happens to pretty much everyone, where you're such a rush to get castled, right? You just want to castle your king. You want to get to safety, that you don't see the other tactics on the board.
Yeah, so let's see what Philip is going to do. He is the lowest rated player on the team of, I believe, Michigan. So, it's not too big of a deal if he loses. Really, the other players have to put the points on the scoreboard. If he castles here, white it can take another pawn. Knight takes c7. You might think like, well, there's rook a7 attacking that knight, and if you move the knight, you hang the queen. But there's knight d5 because if queen takes c6, there's knight takes e7 check. You take the bishop and you win the queen back. So knight takes c7 just wins even more material here for white. Let's see if he will do it.
I think that would be a really, really hard sell there, but it is possible. It's positions like this that everyone's spidey senses start tingling a little bit, and they know there's something on the board, but you also can't take too much time calculating it. Although he is
Mm-hmm.
up on time, and would be a critical point to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he goes 93 back, so throwing away a big chunk of the advantage. We see the evil bar making a drop there. White definitely is still better here as he's up a pawn. But Philip stays in the game. I feel like after knight takes c7, the game would be almost over. So yeah, Jules, perhaps we can go back to the bird's eye view and see what's happening in the other games.
Let's take a look. All right, as we see, the game in board one is still doing very, very well for Verameli. Alrighty, where do we have the most spice, Ben? Where's the most spice? Kind
Right,
of an
so
interesting position in
Jermili.
board four.
Yeah, absolutely. Black up pawn there. So Jeffrey, again, he continues to do a great job for his team. He's 2 out of 2. He might make it 3 out of 3 here. All right, so Jeremy is winning on board number 1. That's going to give Michigan a 3-point lead. We see Sanjay probably winning on board 3. So that's going to bring him back to 2. And there's a big fight going on board 2 between Ramanathan and Marmolejo. I feel like if ASU wants to stay in this match, perhaps Marmolejo needs to get a point there.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be a critical match, especially since the game on board 4 is looking to slightly go more in Huang's favor here. I think it is crucial if both Huang and Ramanathan win, it could be done for ASU.
Yeah, it's starting to look critical for ASU, especially because Jeffrey's winning on board number 4. If they win on board 1, 2, and 3, I don't really see ASU coming back. Even if they win on board 3, that would keep them in the match, but only mathematically. They would be down 8-4 going into the final round, and I don't see it happening coming back from a 4-point deficit.
Right, because if you get down and you only need a draw to win, you can pretty much just play safe on one of the boards and it'd be really difficult to come back. But the games aren't over. And I think game 2 especially still has a lot of life in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they're definitely all fighting. So let's see what's going to happen. I mean, I really like what Jeffrey's doing. He's up a pawn. He's going queenside castles. Again, I feel like we have a big matchup on board number 2. I wonder what White's thinking. I mean, that bishop on h4 is under attack, and I think you just have to go bishop to g3. Perhaps he's worried that Black will take that pawn on e4, but you can't really because it's going to leave the knight on b7 hanging
Yeah, you just can't
in some
you can't worry
variation.
about that at all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not
All
something
right.
you can really worry about. You just have to use your time, you have to make it quick, and that's the best you can do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As some refreshments are being served, I see.
Yes,
So
and by the
let's
way,
see.
everyone, I'm currently in a hotel because I just ended my stay at Bison House in Germany. So I had originally my flight scheduled to go home now, but my schedule for CCL means I have to stay another day, so I'm not on the flight during this. So I booked the hotel that said they had the best Wi-Fi. I'm currently in a random conference room in a random city. So we're enjoying ourselves here, but if you're wondering, why does Jules look like she's in Hogwarts? What is going on? What is with this camera? Here we go.
Mhm.
Welcome.
Mhm.
Continue.
Yeah, no, it's never easy. I noticed myself to do all of these things when you're also traveling. But let's see, we have this matchup here on board number 3. Earlier, Rohit missed an opportunity with knight takes c7 to win another pawn, and I think just win the game. We see Philip fighting back. The material is even now, I believe. He can take on e5. The black pawns are kind of vulnerable, but the one big problem for Philip, Jules, is the fact that he's down to a minute against 2.5. So let's see how he will
Oh,
manage the tension here.
absolutely. You do not want that because, especially for very, very experienced players, being down that much time is very consequential. For us humans, being down that low on time is like it just can be devastating because you could be in a completely winning position and blunder a queen. Anything can happen when you get under 10 seconds. Oh,
Right. Well, he just hung a bishop here,
like this.
and Rahid takes it. So that should be a point for ASU. He had to block with rook f7, blocking the check and defending the bishop. But now, yeah, it's just a little too much. He's down a bishop for just one pawn. So I think ASU is going to get the win here. Perhaps we can go back to the bird's eye view and see what's happening in the other games. As we have some big developments on board number 2. Looks like Ramanathan is doing great against Marmolejo as Black's queenside is crumbling. So we might see Michigan winning this round big and putting themselves in a great position to win the match.
Yeah, I mean, that would be kind of devastating for ASU, but at the same time, I mean, comebacks are possible.
Right. It's definitely possible, but I just don't see it happening if they're down 4 points going into the final round. And yeah, right now Jeremilli is winning on board number 1, Ramanathan is kind of winning on board 2, and Jeffrey just up a pawn on board number 4. So they're doing some great business in this round.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Michigan's really pulling through. And here we see it. Viramilli takes home a point for Michigan there on the board 1. It looks like board 2 is also going to go to Michigan. Board 3, ASU. And board 4, it's looking very strong for Michigan as well. But this is the kind of endgame that can also easily turn into a draw.
Yeah, but some great endgame technique here by Jeffrey. He's going a5, perhaps aiming to go a4. That might sacrifice a pawn, but it would give him the open b file for his rook to create some threats. So let's see. And yeah, no, I think Michigan could very well win this round 3-1. And again, I don't see ASU coming back from that.
Yes, and I don't believe Michigan will uh, well, it's possible that Michigan could win the round here and now, win the match here and now in this round. But no matter what, we always play round 4 for tiebreak purposes. So they'll still be playing for a very essential purpose of getting into these finals. We see it, Sanjay takes home a point here for ASU, just as Ramanathan takes home a point for Michigan. So that just
Yeah,
leaves the
so
last game with Jeffrey Hong versus Shaw.
yeah, so we have the score now 7-4. So win here for Jeffrey would be huge. Again, I don't see ASU coming back from that. A draw here would be big for ASU, but even that will put them in a dire situation going into the final round. But Rikin is fighting. Rook d1, perhaps aiming to go rook a1, attacking that pawn on a5. This one is definitely not over. A lot of technique requires from Jeffrey. So let's see how he will try to put this one away.
Yeah, a lot of technique is required from Jeffrey, but he is up more than a minute now, or about a minute now, and he could just win on time alone.
Yeah, 18 seconds, it's not easy to manage, even though there's a 2-second increment. Rook a1, so I guess now king b5 or rook a8 to defend the pawn, and then White can also maybe go rook a4. Swing that rook over to the king side, like rook g4, start creating some threats. It's definitely not easy, but I don't like this move, as this allows take takes on rook d2.
Yeah, and you have to take back with the king because the king was also under check, and he sees it, rook d2. This is really good technique from Jeffrey.
Absolutely. Rook g1, the only move to defend the pawn in g2, but now you want to move up that king, but it's not that easy. As this king is over here, the evil bar is all the way down, indicating that black is just winning, but for the moment, Rikin is hanging on.
Yeah, he is, and I mean, you have to find a way to win, but your white rook is very, very passive here in this situation.
Right, it's the rook is definitely stuck there. Maybe at some point, like black can make, let's say, move like h5, making sure that white cannot go g4, and white can just run into zugzwang at some point, which is what we might see here, because you might have to move the king, and then you allow the king to step up to b5.
Yeah, I mean, the king is just trying to chase away the rook, getting a little bit of time, and he's actually succeeding in what he wants, which is getting Jeffrey a little bit lower on time, because this massive time advantage has almost evened out. What happened there, Ben?
Yep. Yeah, Jeffrey taking his time to find some precise moves. Okay, he takes the pawn on f3, but now he loses the pawn on g7. So not completely over yet, but he's up 2 pawns that he can simply start pushing now. So let's see if Jeffrey can do it. Also, by the way, moves like rook e3 or rook f4 look pretty good going after that e-pawn.
You just And it's really impossible to defend everything at the same time. I like that move because you don't allow any sort of like rook g4 defending. And also that h pawn is running, so that white rook is stuck defending that h pawn there, trying to make sure that
Yep,
it can't promote.
absolutely. Yeah. So let's see. He goes h4, pushing that pawn further ahead. I think this is simply going to be a win for Jeffrey. The white's kind of stuck here. King e5 is going to come now. Collect the pawn. If white takes on c5, you take on b3. I think Jeffrey has this in the back, but he's down to 10 seconds. His only way to not win this game would be if he flags.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. We just saw two flags in the rounds before, so it could definitely happen here.
Oh, he's giving white a pass b pawn, and the pawn's running up the board very quickly. I don't like what he's done here, but still difficult.
And that's what happens when you get kind of low on time trying to find precise moves, although, oh, he did promote!
What are these moves? Check. Give a check.
Oh, and then you just take in the pawn is in time to promote. But yeah, it's a little difficult to just keep checking from behind. It would have been some really good technique, but now you're too late. The queen is coming. You can try for a stalemate, but I mean, unless we commentators curse it, it looks like this game's gonna be over.
Yeah, unless you go king
Just don't
g2 or
stalemate.
yeah, there's still the h3 squares. Yeah, and now he's just gonna bring the king around, and that's gonna be all over. But yeah, Rikin missed a draw there with the king on g2. He should have just kept checking that king, like you go rook g8, then rook h8, and it's just a draw. But he didn't know that defensive technique, perhaps.
Yeah, and you know, it is a little bit hard if you don't know it. That's still something that I'm learning, some other people are learning, so it's a little bit hard to do. We don't blame him in there, but interesting finish to the round, and I believe it puts ASU 4-8. So U Michigan only needs a draw to win this match.
Yeah, only one draw is needed, so ASU is going to have to go all out on every single board. I guess the good thing for them is that every player will play their corresponding board, so there are chances. I mean, there's not going to be a big mismatch on any board, but it's looking tough. If anything goes wrong on any board, it's just over right away. So, yeah, tough situation that ASU is finding themselves in right now.
Yeah, they're going to need to go absolutely ham here with the board ones playing board ones, board two, board two, board three, board three, board four, board four. You get the drill. This is really going to be the matchup that matters for ASU. They cannot allow even a single draw.
Yep. No, a draw would win a win for University of Michigan. So they're gonna. I think they should just play their normal game, but at some point they might have to take some risk because, like I said, a draw would win a win for Michigan.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll see some crazy openings, some insane tactics. I don't know. A draw is as good as a loss, but to be honest, I don't think we've ever seen someone come back from this.
No, I don't think I've seen a team coming back from a 4-point deficit in the last round. I've seen comebacks from 3 points behind, but not from 4. 4 is just so much. Again, like I said, any draw would clinch the match. So I don't see it happening, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. But at the same time, maybe ASU is amped. Maybe there's some ASU fans giving their energy and they can come back. Either way, I'm curious to see if their openings change, if their play changes, if we're going to see any big tactics. But another Caro coming here in board one.
Yeah, and Kara again putting the knight on c3. I think a slight positional mistake. The knight's always slightly misplaced there. So let's see how this one is going to develop, like going for very solid moves with knight c6, knight f6. And yeah, so black, bishop f5, okay. I feel like if you have the opportunity, maybe put the bishop on g4, where it's just a little bit more active.
Yeah, makes sense there. And yeah, it's interesting to see all these very professional openings here in Blitz. Excited to see how this unfolds. And I'm wondering what we're going to get here on board 3. It's hard to play for a win and to play aggressively with the black pieces, but perhaps we'll see a Sicilian.
Yeah, let's see what's going to happen. I mean, I feel like as long as you keep pieces on the board, there's always going to be chances in Blitz, so you don't have to worry too much about the opening. And we see some very aggressive stuff by Marmolejo on board number 2. He goes f4, f5, sacrificing a pawn very early on. Perhaps he feels like that's what he needs to do because they're all in must-win situations. But you might just go a little too aggressive, and that could backfire. So we'll see what's going to happen there.
Yeah, that's true. You could go a little bit too aggressive. It looks like we might get a QGD here on board 2. Interesting opening, pretty complex. Okay, now we're going into London. I play this line as well, where you try to trade off the dark square bishops. You go something like c5 if you can. It's pretty common, so we'll see if we see that. What I love in these positions is when people like pre-move or something and allow you to take the dark squared bishop, and then you're just pretty happy. Like white can play on, but
Hmm.
no London player wants to play without their dark square bishop like that.
Right. Yeah. So white often slides that bishop back to g3, hoping that black will take, as then they can recapture with the h-pawn, which is going to give them half up an h-file to work with. And together with that bishop on c2, that always can give white great attacking potential. And wow, Jules, look at this. This game between Marmolejo and Jaramilli is on fire. White sacrificed a pawn and the exchange, but I don't like the fact that he's following up with slow moves like a4. I think he should play more aggressively and try to attack as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I agree. You just have to keep attacking, keeping it solid. But it's kind of hard to do that at at the moment as well. Okay, here we're seeing something a little bit symmetrical on board 4. Michigan already seems off to an interesting start here. I'm wondering where all these pawns went. But yeah, it looks like Michigan's gonna get their half point. I just don't see how ASU can win every single board.
Well, in Blitz, anything can happen, but already on board 1, Ramanathan is doing great. I mean, very solid position, slight advantage. We see some trades, so hard for Kara to win that game, but you never know. I feel like what Marmolejo is doing, it might not be objectively correct, but at least it's more in the spirit of, I have to win. Oh, and Kara just dropped a pawn on c2. I don't see him coming back from that.
I mean, a pawn down, pawns are replaceable. No, they're actually not. But at the same time, it's not the end of the world. Perhaps we can see some sort of miracle there, but yeah, the positions aren't looking super strong for ASU, and sometimes that's what happens when you have to go full out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, let's see what's going to happen. Kara sacrificing another pawn on b2, but if you take it, you hang c7. So rook c7, solid move. But now he goes rook c1. Like, you can just take on c1, give up the queen for the two rooks. You actually have to, but that should be a very comfortable endgame. And I think Kara practically has no chances of winning there. So I think on board 1, Michigan is already clinching the match.
Yeah, I think that would make it over. But I mean, of course, they still play out the rest of the round for tiebreak points to see what happens. But that would be a clutch for Michigan on board 1. That would be exactly what they need to do, and you see them coming in strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now we see here that white has the queen, but black has two rooks and a pawn. So queens are often considered to be worth 9 points. Rooks are considered to be worth 5. So 5 plus 5 is 10, plus an extra pawn is 11 versus 9. So black having a 2-point advantage here. Now the thing is, in the middle game, the queen can often be stronger than the two rooks, right? But in the end game, the rooks get stronger as it's easier for them to move into the opponent's position, take pawns, stuff like that. So that is why the evil bar is giving black a big advantage here. So let's see if Arun can finish this one off.
Yes, and you have that beautiful passed pawn, everything looks good, but at the same time, a lot of players, even though you know the advantage of two rooks, don't always love playing with that two rooks against a queen. So there is that, and you want to be careful not to hang anything. I do like that move of b5 there, just stopping any sort of like queen e8 things should the rook move.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And now perhaps it's time for the rooks to infiltrate. I guess like rook c3, maybe just like rook c2 after, move the rook over, and then rook cc2. And white simply has no way to defend because white only has the queen. Right? Black, if he starts attacking g2, he basically has an extra piece. Because there's two pieces to attack it, and white only has one piece to defend it. Maybe rook c6, very solid stuff. Okay, rook back is
Eh,
a bit of a pity.
yeah, I agree. Either you go full out and go aggressive and just like try to attack despite giving up the a pawn, which you don't even need to do, or you defend with your other pawn and just keep your rook on that second rank. That's where the rooks are the most
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Absolutely. Yep. So let's see if Arun is going to do that. If he finds the right plan here, I think the game and the match with that will just be over. So, Jules, perhaps we can go back to the bird's eye view as we have some action on the other boards.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Right. So on the other boards, ASU is actually fighting pretty well. We see Marmolejo. He's down in exchange and a pawn, but having some great compensation, going for a big attack on the queen side. Sanjay, the evil bar is currently in white's favor, but he is trapping that bishop on e4. Perhaps Jeffrey has a very tricky move, knight e5. Let's see if he will find it. And Shah winning the exchange on board number one, but on board number four. But yeah, the problem is it looks like Ramanathan is just clinching the match on board one.
Yeah, and then it doesn't even matter what ASU does. Although their tiebreak points could be important for getting into the playoffs, that's still very important. It's not just match score that matters.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think Varun is just clinching it. He's pushing that d pawn forward, and the white queen can only stop that d pawn for so long. The thing is, ASU is going to have to need a miracle on board number one. But if they do get that miracle, that it could happen. But yeah, it's a big ask.
Keep seeing from the corner of my eye the eval's swinging wildly in this board too. Just wondering what's even happening there.
Yeah, we have a wild game there. Again, White's giving up a lot of material in exchange. And he's got a pawn back. Now something like bishop f2 looks like a really nice move, hitting that queen. And then maybe you can swing your queen over to b3 at some point, start creating a lot of threats. So Marmolejo, he can get a win. Sanjay can get a win. He's up a bishop. We see that Shah is up material as well. So let's have a look here on board number two. A lot of tension. Perhaps now bishop f2. Oh, that's the blue arrow that the computer was indicating. And wherever the queen goes, you might run into some fork action. But bishop g3 instead was played.
I mean, now I think you could try bishop f2, which is what happens, although you just kind of help them solidify their structure by allowing e5. But ultimately, not the end of the world there. Yermile still has to make a decision on where he wants to put his queen, but if you play too slow, you struggle just being down material. So it's very important for White to play very aggressively.
Now let's see how he will do so. I mean, there's knight c4 forking the queen and the rook, but black has queen takes c2, creating a counter threat on the rook on b1. So it's not easy. And if you go queen b3 first, then you hang the bishop on f2. So I don't know. I don't know what he has to do here. Looks perhaps it's easier for black. Just take the material and let white prove the compensation. But Jules, it's all over. Varun won his game on board one. So University of Michigan wins this match.
University of Michigan, huge congratulations to them for winning the match. However, we're still going to play the rest of the games, and it's really important. ASU doesn't know that Michigan's won yet. So they're still going to go all out on their boards. They're still going to try to pick up every single point that they can, go ham. So we'll see what happens there, but huge from you, Michigan.
Yeah, big win for them. All right, but still, okay, so Sanjay gets a nice win on board number three. Beating Jeffrey with the black pieces. Let's stay focused on this game. So now we see Brian's time advantage is dwindling. The bishop, the pawn on c2 is under attack. I don't know what he should do. I honestly don't know.
And also, the time is ticking down. I mean, I think having that advantage of time would be pretty crucial in this kind of position because when you're down in material, but you have an attack that maybe, as we see by the eval bar, doesn't quite pay off. At least if you create threats and create them quickly, you can trick your opponent. But he's taking so long to even find those threats when honestly, just trying to find a solid move, it's really difficult in this position, but I don't know.
Right.
You have to try to find something. I think that's decent. That's decent there, but he spent a little too much time on it.
Okay, bishop c5, interesting move. His idea is that the rook has to move, and then he wants to go queen b3, making sure that bishop is not hanging. Rook c6 now looks quite natural, hitting the bishop on c5, and I think after white plays queen b3, you can just take the bishop, because there's no good discovery with the knight. For example, knight d7, you can take and protect this. So let's see what Brian has in mind here as he's getting down to 30 seconds.
I know, and you don't really want to move your bishop back because you take on c2 and everything could fall, but there might also be tactics there too. I mean, I think honestly, Brian is playing this pretty well. This is a very difficult position, and this is one of those positions too where people just end up flagging because you keep trying to find the right move, you try to find the right follow-up, and it's just not there. You just have to make things difficult.
Yeah, bishop d6, I think that's not it. Just king a7, the black king is sitting perfectly safe there. A5, anchoring in the knight, but the evil bar makes a big drop. So let's see, perhaps just rook d8 here, bring in a piece, thing the bishop, and that's what he goes for. And I don't know. I mean, Brian's down to 20 seconds, and I don't see a defense. I think he's just going to lose.
Yeah, there isn't even a great attack here. And yeah, I don't know. This is just one of those last-ditch sacrifices, I think. Maybe try to give a check or something. But there's only so much you can do with a check. If only the queen could transport to b6 and you can somehow get your bishop on that diagonal, but I don't know. I think it's too little too late here with 4 seconds for Brian.
Yeah, and queen c1 followed by rook takes d6 picks up even more material, and I think that's what Bala is going to go for, and yeah, that's it. Game over. Michigan is going to get another win. The match was already over, but I mean, it's always nice to get a win and get some more board points.
Yeah, and we have our last game still coming here. Last game, board 4. It's Shaw versus Staffy, and they both want to take home a win. It looks like Philip has a little bit less time in this position, and his position also looks, I'm not going to lie, a little bit rough. Yeah.
It looks rough for white indeed. He's down the exchange. If these rooks can somehow enter along the c file, it feels like things would collapse right away for white. King h8, very calm move, making sure that in case white ever takes through the bishop, it's not a devastating effect. But Philip is fighting, so let's see what black's going to do. Maybe at some point you can move the knight, try to go rook c2. Perhaps now is the time. Let's see.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if you just hang the d pawn is a little scary. But maybe I'm not seeing something there. I'm a little sick, so still working on my tactics.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Okay,
knight
both
moves back.
players
Not a
are
really convenient
fighting.
place for the knight.
Yeah, but Philip is hanging in there. He's down the exchange, but he's making sure that Rick Keane doesn't get an immediate win. And as long as you hang in there, you always give yourself a chance.
Also, he doesn't know that his match is already over. I mean, for all he knows, his teammates just scored some miracle wins, and he's the one it's all resting on. So you're really going to see him fighting when maybe in a different scenario, he'd be okay kind of sitting back and letting the loss happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. So let's see what's going to happen. He played rook c3, now pawn takes a4. But after a4, there's a lot of tension now in the center. Let's see what he will do. The computer gives that a question mark, but it's definitely causing some confusion here. Maybe like queen f5 was better. But this is also a good move. Defending the pawn on a4, now the bishop is kind of trapped.
Yeah. I mean, he's been following this stuff very, very well. When you're in a winning position, sometimes it's easy just to keep the pressure on. But 15 seconds, he has to make sure not to flag. I think that's the only thing that could stop Rican here.
Yeah, just, keep moving. Keep moving. Don't get too long time, as that's when blunders or flags will happen. He has to keep in mind, this rook on c1 is hanging. He should move it at some point. Anything can happen still. Oh, and there it goes. Uh-oh.
Felt like you won something, but really all you won was a little bit less pain.
Oh, and wait, what is... wait, there was check
Maybe
and
maybe it was
this.
like
What?
Philip gets the checkmate. Whoa, and we saw it this whole game he was behind. He just stayed in it. He kept on the time pressure, and he found that checkmate, and he set it up too. There was a tactic on the board, and he didn't even go for that tactic. He was setting up his own thing, and it managed to go through. So that was a nice point there on the board 4. We see U Michigan taking it home pretty decisively as well. So I believe U Michigan was able to score 11 points here against 5. That's some pretty big stuff, but great performances all around. A lot of these players first times on CCL. By the way, we're gonna take a look at some merch. Pawns get zapped up into space.
Students, did you know that you can get a discount on any Chess.com premium membership? If you're enrolled in a college, university, or high school in a participating country, you can get 50% off any yearly or monthly premium plan, Diamond, Platinum, or Gold. That's unlimited game review, unlimited puzzles, unlimited bots, unlimited lessons, and no ads. All at 50% off. Go to chess.com/students and get your discount today.
Do you think that you're a better player than I am?
Of course not. Like, your achievements are way higher.
He's lying, yeah?
He's lying.
No.
No.
It's true.
Especially after this move.
I got him.
Okay,
Yes.
wow.
Do you care about your legacy?
Yes.
True. Once again, we're getting somewhere, Danny. Exposing the guy. Exposing the lies. Once you told me that your peak lasted 10 minutes. And you told me it happened during your game against Tomaszewski, in a game that you managed to draw.
Absolutely.
Do you think that a chess player like yourself, a genius, can have many peaks?
Yes.
True.
But not in this game, obviously.
Do you hate anybody in the chess world?
After he answered and then I gave him a true, he was thinking a little bit about that. So maybe there's some mixed thoughts.
No, I can explain. So this was because I think Levon is a case of someone who had quite a few picks in his career.
Thank you for the compliment. So my following question is, do you hate anybody in the chess world?
Probably yes. Hate is a strong word, but probably yes.
True. All we have to get to is who that person is. Is it somebody who's playing actively currently?
Yes.
Is it somebody from the top?
Yes, why do you need all these questions? Like, you want one single guy. You're not getting that.
Our last set of tactics is drawing tactics. Sometimes the position is desperate and you seemingly have no way to save the game. But an incredible resource can allow you to eke out a valuable half point. The first drawing tactic is the perpetual attack. This is a bit like the trapped piece, but in this case you aren't able to actually win the piece. However, you can continually attack it, and your opponent is unable to escape the threats. Eventually, the game will be drawn after repeating the position 3 times. The study composer Votava showed an incredible piece of geometry, with a pawn sacrifice setting up a perpetual attack from the king against the black rook, securing a draw. The most common case of perpetual attack is perpetual check. This is naturally a case of perpetual attack against the opponent's king. Stalemate tactics are often in play to save positions when you are down oodles of material.
Hey, it's the Rosen trap.
In many cases, stalemates occur as a result of catastrophic inattention from the attacker, but sometimes they can be the result of great ingenuity on the defensive side. My favorite stalemate trick ever occurred in a computer game where bishop b3 allowed white to follow up by sacrificing the remaining pieces and securing a miraculous half point. Finally, and truly finally, a fortress is another defensive fallback where, down material, you are able to construct a shell that the opponent simply cannot break.
What if I told you I became a grandmaster by solving the same exact chess exercises over and over again? Yes, it sounds a little crazy. After all, if each chess game is different, why repeat something you've seen before? Shouldn't you practice calculating in unique positions every time? Well, that's true. But there's also a way to train your brain to streamline its calculations. And that's the woodpecker method. My friend Hans Tikkanen invented the woodpecker method in 2010 when he was training to become a grandmaster. 7 weeks after he finished using his method, he earned all 3 of his GM noms to earn his title. Seeing his success, I had to try it for myself. And a couple of years later, I became a grandmaster too. As word spread, others tried it too, with excellent results. Okay, so what is the woodpecker method? The first step is to take any large amount of chess puzzles and solve as many as you can in 4 weeks. In my books and chessable courses on the woodpecker method, there are about 1,000. You don't need to do that many, especially if you are a beginner, but I recommend solving at least a few hundred. At the end of the 4 weeks, take a break, a few days at least. Then, solve the same exact problems again, this time aiming to finish them in 2 weeks. You might remember the solutions from before, that's okay, but try to solve them like you're seeing them for the first time. After you finish the second cycle, try solving them in 1 week, and then a few days, and then try solving all of them in a single day. It's not easy work, trust me. I didn't think I was going to make it the first time I tried it, but the results were remarkable. It's because much of chess is pattern recognition. Rather than calculating every single move in a position, your brain looks for ideas and patterns it has seen before first, and they help you calculate faster and more accurately. So by doing the woodpecker method, you're building intuition, helping your brain become more efficient in calculation. And that's the woodpecker method in a nutshell.
Hello everyone, welcome back to CCL. This is our spring season. I'm your commentator, Jules Gamet. This is my co-host, Grandmaster Benjamin Bach. And we're going to be looking at Yale versus Mizzou as our second match today. And this is a huge matchup. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, big matchup for sure in Division 1. I think Mizzou is definitely a favorite though, as they have a very well-rounded team. GMs pretty much on all boards. I mean, Ishik, I don't know if he's still an IM, but he's pretty much GM strength for sure. Whereas Yale has GMs on the first two boards, also strong IM on board number 3. But on board number 4, they have an NM. So Mizzou should be the more well-rounded team, and that should show in the match.
Absolutely, and as you see here, the ratings are fairly similar, but Mizzou has such a strong team, and they are our reigning champs. So this is very important for them to get this this stuff. But yeah, Yale's board 1 very strong. Checa versus Khan. It'll be interesting to see what happens, and we see a start here with a French coming probably.
Yeah, the Checa playing the French with an early bishop e4. This is called the Wiener defense. And Ishik going for a very solid line with e takes d5 and bishop d3. Normally, after bishop e4, e5 is their critical move. But we see slow development here, and the game should be more or less balanced. And on board number 2, we are off as well with Luka Budisalvic playing 1d4 and Arthur Guo. Even to play the Nims Indian, but after knight f3, he's paused, I think.
Yeah, so maybe we'll see some sort of Queen's Gambit declined here. By the way, in chat, let us know who you're rooting for, Yale versus Mizzou. We've seen them a lot here on CCL, but every season is a new one, and there's always chances for redemption, for comebacks. We'll see what happens here. And we see the third game coming out with b3. What an interesting first move there.
Yeah, b3, just the two best players, often getting them a lot of points. And if your board 1 and 2 score a lot of points, then boards 3 and 4, if they score around 50%, you're going to win a lot of matches. So let's see how this one will play out. Antipov, he also often works for Fabiano Caruana, and we see some interesting opening play by him here, but the computer doesn't quite approve of it. So let's see if maybe Lyndon Lee has some chances for a big upset in this game.
I mean, it's possible, but sometimes even when computers don't like the evaluation, it can still be really tricky, especially if they know their openings. But we will see what happens here. Seems like that was an error engine-wise, but maybe Lyndon Lee will see what to do.
Yeah, black is attacking the pawn on c4 with the bishop and the knight, but you're not actually threatening to take with the knight, and the computer is indicating the move pawn to f4, because if you do take, there is b3. The knight is pinned. If you move it, you hang your bishop. So f4 is going to have to be met with knight g6, and white's gaining a lot of space in the center there. Maybe even like h4, h5 could be an idea, or just castles followed by e4. Let's see what Lyndon Lee is going to do. He has the advantage on the board, but on the clock, Antipov is a minute ahead.
Yeah, and looks like we had some predictions, and I see Joe in chat saying 250k on Mizzou already. Wowza! I wonder who bet all those points. Ben.
Somebody went Joe went all in on Mizzou. All right, so let's see if there's any Yale believers. I'll definitely put in the prediction as well, but I'll let the chat do their prediction first. But anyway, the match is in full swing. And yeah, Lyndon Lee finds f4. Nice move. Knight g6 is forced here by Antipov. Again, you cannot take on c4 because b3 or maybe even like queen a4 wins a full piece. So knight g6 is absolutely forced.
And I see NM Lyndon Lee is in fact Alice Lee's older brother. So that's a cool fun fact here. Also a Yale student. And yeah, I think this is one of those moves that kind of separates GMs from the rest of us ordinary folk. Is a lot of people are just really worried about getting castled, keeping it safe. But these players know exactly when and where to time and prioritize safety, and when and where to just expand your position.
Yeah, and the computer here is suggesting the move e3, e4. Nice move. Perhaps preparing to go e5, kick the other knight away. Because the thing is, I guess if you castle right here, which looks quite natural, perhaps you're giving black the opportunity to quickly take on d5, take on e2, and then rook e8, and make it more difficult for you to get that e4 push. And he goes d6 instead, but the computer makes a big drop. And bishop b7, nice move by Antipov, stopping e4. Yeah, looks like Lyndon Lee has lost most of his advantage.
And, it can happen in just one move. And not only has he lost most of his advantage, but also his time. It's 2 minutes and 45 seconds to 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, Jules, I think Mizzou is really, I think Yale's best chances are going to be to strike on the top boards with Checa, Arthur Guo, and Maximilian Lu. But it looks like Mizzou has already won on board number 1. Perhaps we can show the people real quick what happened here. White was already better here with the 2 bishops. But Black made a terrible blunder. He played h6, and White just took the knight. Because you cannot recapture, because that's going to leave your queen hanging. So, big mistake there by Checa. And Isha gives Mizzou the lead.
Yeah, and that was the board 1. Checa is the board 1 for Yale, so that could be devastating there because he's really going to need to score these points. Every point matters, especially when, as you said, Mizzou has a more top-heavy team. So I don't know. That is kind of a tough tactic to blunder in round 1.
Yeah, no, tough blunder there for Checa. And no, it's not going to be easy for them to come back if your board 1 is losing points there. But let's see what's happening in the other games. Perhaps we can go back to the bird's eye view real quick. And oh wow, look at this. There's a lot of stuff happening in this game between Luca. All right. So we'll pull that up later, but there was a lot of action in the game between Luca and Arthur Guo. Perhaps we can have a look at it later. Some really interesting stuff.
I'm just pouring myself a glass of water here. But yeah, and it looks, board 4 has turned between Antipov and Linden so quickly there. I mean, that could have been the chance Yale needed to score back their point that they lost there on board 1.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, so we'll see what's going to happen. In the meantime, I put in my own prediction as well. But anyway, so Arthur Guo, he's fighting. He's up the exchange. I mean, yes, his king is not pretty. The double pawns on f7 and f6 are not pretty, but it's an extra exchange. On board number 2, it's pretty even. And Lyndon Lee, he's fighting against Antipov, but things are starting to look scary now for that white king. As knight x4 is a threat, the king and John is feeling a little alone.
And someone, Z Smoothly says, Yale wins these. I don't care. Yeah, it's true. Yale has won these in the past. And also, Mizzou is not invincible. There's been upsets from slightly lower rated teams against Mizzou. It does happen. I mean, not a great start there on the board 1, but it's just one game.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here we have this very exciting matchup between Luca and Arthur Guo. So we see that Arthur is up the exchange, but again, he's having those double isolated pawns on f7 and f6 that are now being attacked with queen b2. His king is a little exposed on g8, and you have to be careful that your bishop on h3 doesn't get shut out with g4. Queen b4, tricky move, threatening queen e1 checkmate, so that's why king f2 was played. But Jules, I just really want to go back because at some point, I saw the evil bar jumping. So let's see what happened, right? So white was better here, brought some pieces into the game, white's better, everything looks good. Now some weird stuff happens. As his rook is getting trapped, but Luca sacrificed. Knight f6, brilliant move. And here he missed a brilliant move, bishop to g4. Trying to get that bishop and trying to get the queen into the game. I wonder why this is so good. So take, king. Oh, look at this, because you go queen f5. Threatening f6, you can't defend. King g7, there's queen g5. But that was the big missed opportunity for Luca. Anyway, the game goes on. He's down the exchange, so let's fast forward real quick. And, now white's very much in the game because he won a pawn back.
Yeah, I mean, he's still in the game. But 43 seconds to 2 minutes and 50 seconds. That's also a huge time disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now perhaps it's time to go oh, wait, so a lot of moves happened. Queen h6, defending against a checkmate, hitting the h2 pawn. Practically, I definitely like this better for white. I mean, you have a safer king. The bishops are pretty powerful. I feel like it's pretty easy for black to blunder here. He's trying to go queen h3, so you might want to keep that in mind. But also at the time, I really like Luca's chances in this position.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough for Arthur Guo there to keep it going, and he is their Yale board 2. So this was an important one to win as well. This could just be a sweep for Mizzou, but it's still too early to tell.
It certainly could be a sweep, mean, we'll stay focused on this game between Luca and Arthur Guo right now, but I'm seeing that on the other boards, Aryan Tari is better. He's winning now, and Antipov has just won his game. So we might just be looking at a sweep here, and I don't see Yale coming back from that against this strong Mizzou team.
Yeah, absolutely. And Antipov winning his game, Khan winning his game. That is such a strong start for Mizzou.
Yeah, but they're a strong team. So let's see. H5 has just been played here by Arthur. Right now, something like Queen D3 or Queen C2 looks pretty good to me. Threatening Queen H7, which is hard to defend against. And there we have it, Rook C8. But that looks scary. At the very least, I can give a check, pick up the pawn, also like check and bishop f5. There's got to be something here for Luca.
I mean, yeah, it feels like the tactics should be all-encompassing. He has the time to find it with 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah, I think bishop f5 looks pretty good to me. Black has to move their queen. Maybe you take on d7, then like bishop f6. And black doesn't even have a check on c2 because you can take. Takes on h5 instead, also keeping a big advantage.
Absolutely. And it just seems like Arthur Guo's king is vulnerable. Everything is coming through. And materially, it's just not the best here.
No. Bishop f5 looks pretty good here. Queen c6. So in case white takes, he's looking at a check on c2. So Arthur's fighting. It's not over yet. But I wonder, can you
Not
take?
over yet. Yeah.
Check. King up. He gives a check on h8 first and queen e5. You can also just start pushing this h-pawn. Also not a bad idea.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be really hard to stop the promotion, keep your entire position together. That is not what you want there. I would honestly just go for that plan. Just keep pushing, try to create as many threats as possible, which is what we see on the board.
h5. King d7 on the board. Yeah, so perhaps Arthur needs to try something like queen b5 and queen f1, creating some counterplay, because Luca's pawn is running up the board extremely fast.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems like what they're gonna kind of go for, but I don't think it will be in time.
He goes rook d1. Perhaps, okay, check, but yeah, king g3. The king is sitting perfectly safe to try something like queen c1, but I think it's all a little too late. Queen takes d5 looks winning. Yeah, because also this pawn is often queening with check in the line. So queen takes d5, this is GG.
Oof. Is in fact GG here. I think we're going to see it shortly. And the resignation comes. Luca wins. Point to Mizzou. That means there's only one final game here with Tari versus Liu.
Yeah, and looks like Aryan is winning this as well. He's up a pawn in the endgame, but he's got 3 passers. Just bishop e6 here. Those e-pawns are not going anywhere. Just c4, c3. This is an easy win for Aryan Tari. So it's going to be 4-0. What a great start for Mizzou.
Yeah, what a fantastic start for Mizzou. That is very, very strong. But Yale's going to have to come back in this round too, and we see it 4-0. I don't think we've seen that kind of start in quite a long time. And that is really difficult, especially for the boards 2 and 1 that should have gone the point here for Yale.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're having a player on board 4 that's so much lower rated than your opponents, you need your top boards to compensate. But if also they're not putting any points on the scoreboard, you're looking at a tough match. And that's what we're seeing right here. But this Mizzou team is extremely strong. I mean, Aryan Tari, he's well over 2,600. Antipov, he's close to 2,600 as well. And Ishik Chun, he's like 2,540. So really strong team. And again, I think it's going to be between Mizzou and SLU. So no shame to Yale if they would lose this one.
Hey, but it's not over till it's over. We still have our second round coming up, and maybe this will put, a fire in the house of Yale, And we know that Yale doesn't like their fires. I think there's a rumor about their library or something. Maybe someone in chat knows it. But anyway, it's going to be important for Yale with their board 1 versus board 3, Arthur Guo versus Isa Khan, Max Liu versus Mikhail Antipov, and Lyndon Lee versus Aryan Tari. That's going to be quite the matchup.
Yeah, and somebody asked in the chat, how did Mizzou become a chess powerhouse? The answer to that question is very simple. Mizzou is one of the schools that is backed by chess scholarship. So that's why we see these strong players, Aryan Tari, Antipov, Luka Briselvic, Ishik Chan. They're all on a full scholarship playing for their team. And Yale is not a team that's backed by a scholarship, so it's still amazing that they have such a strong team together. But it's tough. It's tough to compete against such a strong team that has all the resources and coaches behind them.
Yeah, resources, coaches. I mean, these events are very important for them. They compete in Pan Ams, they compete here in CCL. So, I mean, it is tough. But Yale has done it before. Other teams have done it before. I'm excited to see what they can do.
And we're off to round number 2. A funny opening here by Luca, who played a6 on the second move and now c5. So kind of a delayed Benoni. I guess the idea is that now maybe b5, and he has some sort of improved Banco gambit. Knight f3, the computer doesn't quite like that, because now after b4, your knight's going to have to move to an awkward square, either to the edge or back to its initial square. And the thing is, due to that pawn on b4, the knight cannot go back to c3, which is really where you want the knight to be.
Yeah, it is a little awkward in this position here. Yeah, I mean, I don't, I see the vision here. I see the vision here, and we get a Roy Lopez on board 2, and then, so was this an exchange Caro on board 3?
Yes, an exchange Caro on board 3 by Antipov, keeping it simple. We see g6 by Maximilian Liu. Not only is the idea to fianchetto the bishop, also you're preparing to move bishop f5, and that's what he went for.
Absolutely, and the board 4 will be starting shortly. It'll be interesting to see what happens there as well. But Yale really has to pull out all the stops. They have to keep it sharp. They have to find some tactics. And they have to win pretty much all 4 games to put themselves back in the running.
Yep. All right. So Aryan Tari's game, we see a very slow setup by going for knight b2, b3, bishop b2. So just keeping all of the pieces on the board there. In the meantime, I'm starting to like Checa's position against Luca. Perhaps we can go to that game. As white is a beautiful knight on c4, where it can never be pushed away. And it's always going to be putting pressure on that pawn on d6. So Luca perhaps overpushed his pawns a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I always thought Checa is a great name for a chess player. Uh, but maybe it will bring him some luck in this game here, and he needs it, because I think if their board 1 loses this, it could be over.
Yeah, this match could be over before you know it, because again, Mizzou already has a big lead. So we'll see what's going to happen. The game on board number 2 looking pretty even between Arthur Go and Ishik John, which is completely fine for Mizzou. They're so far ahead. Antipov gaining space on the queen side. Interesting stuff there. And yeah, I feel like Checa is doing well. That pawn on d6 is just so weak. So if you can follow up with a4, the knight's going to have to move. You drop that pawn. So Luca in a critical spot.
Absolutely, it's going to be very important for him there. And yeah, that game, Tari versus Linden, still in the early starting stages.
Rook a6, defending the pawn on d6 between Checa and Luca, but kind of passive. All right, so Jules, is there a game that you want to go to?
All right, let's see. I think in order of spice, perhaps the game on board 3 could get interesting, or board 1. Which do you prefer?
Let's start out on the top board between Checa and Luca. So let's pull up that game. As Checa just went for an interesting decision, he played bishop takes d6, and his idea is that now he wants to take on d6 and meet queen takes d6 with e5, forking the queen and the knight, winning some material. Yeah, so looks really good for Checa. Let's see if he can get a win here for his team.
That would be crucial for Yale. It's an absolutely must-win scenario for him here. Score is 0. He lost his last round, but here he has a chance to redeem himself against the board 3.
Yeah, Luca's still fighting. I mean, he has a bishop and a pawn for the exchange, so it's far from over. Queen c4, let's see. Luca keeping the queens on the board, making a lot of sense. Now let's see what Checa is going to do. I feel like at some point, Black might try to establish a knight on d4. Maybe try to go after this a5 pawn. That's what he's perhaps trying to do with rook b5. But yeah, Luca's still very much in this game, and now he activates his rook.
And you can't call it too soon. They're both keeping pretty even on time as well, which is important.
All All right, so queen a4, hitting the pawn on a5, which looks tough to defend. But maybe Luka can go for some active counterplay. I mean, maybe at some point knight e4. Let's see what he's going to do. But yeah, Checa at least has an easy plan. Just take the pawn and good luck to black defending it.
Right here, he follows your plan, knight d4. I mean, take bishop takes. It seems a little bit tough.
Yeah,
I
you
kind of like
have to
that
take
bishop
it.
there on d4 if there's no tactics.
Yeah, I don't think there's any tactics, but white can take the pawn, and that's what I expect Checa to do. He takes the queen, also possible. Now it's time for black to activate the queen to,
Absolutely.
let's say, e4 or so.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And now you just kind of need to find everything you can. That a3 pawn might become a menace later, but you also have this pass pawn on c5 if you can keep it.
Queen e2, bring the queen back to defend. Okay, the queen goes back to a8. That seems a little passive to me. And maybe, the pawn on a3 is under attack, but black's not really threatening to take it, as there's always rook takes c5. And if you take, that would leave the rook on d8 hanging. So Checa having great chances here for his team to come back a little bit. Yale definitely fighting much harder in this round to stay in the match. But yeah, there is already a 4-point gap.
Yeah, sometimes, you go to sleep in round 1 and you wake up in round 2 and you're like, what did I do? It takes a little bit for a team to wake up, and that can be a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, no, every point matters. So let's see. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough against this Mizzou team. I mean, they're just so strong. And we discussed earlier why. But Checa has great chance to win this one as he's pushing his a-pawn up the board. Rook f6, nice moves by Luka to create some counterplay.
Yeah. Let's take a look at bird's eye view whenever we can and see what's going on in some of the other games.
Yeah. All right. So we see that Checa is winning, is better / winning on board number 1. Board 2 looking approximately even. Antipov better on board 3. And Tari better on board 4. So I think Mizzou is going to win this round, but not by as big of a margin as the last round.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, if Mizzou wins this round, it's pretty much over for Yale. They have to come back somehow, and they just can't get back all their points.
Yeah. I mean, if Mizzou just keeps winning every round, like even if it's just by a point, then at some point the match will just be over. So it's tough. It's tough for Yale. They're really going to have to strike at some point. But Mizzou's just so strong on all of the boards that it's hard to see it happening.
Yeah, I don't know. And this just shows also that they're here and they're ready to rumble. They won last year, and maybe they're ready to take home the prize again this year.
Yep. All right. So Tari doing some great stuff on board number 4. I think he's just winning. Right now the queen's under attack. If you move it, there's going to be d6. So I think Tari is going to be winning. Perhaps let's go to that game, Jules, between Tari and Linden.
Let's take a look.
All right, so knight c4 has just been played. The queen's under attack. It's going to have to move to either b3, and that's a square he chooses, or e2, but now just d6 looks really powerful. You can follow with queen d5, knight takes c5, bishop takes c5. Lots of ideas. This knight at a4 also out of play. So I think Aryan has this one in the back, and there we have a d6 on the board.
Yeah, it's definitely possible here. And Aryan's also been playing very well. I remember the last season he had kind of a slow start, but here he's just been killing it every single round.
Yep. All right, so rook c8, Linden Lee trying to fight on, but it's hard against a strong GM like Aryan. Aryan can also take on b7, because if you take on c4, there's queen d5. You can take an e5, and that's the move he chooses, but the evil bar makes a big drop there. Wait, rook takes c4, is that available for Linden? If you take, you leave the bishop on e5 hang, and let's move. Oh, queen e5, that's a move I initially also missed. And that's game over.
Okay, so everyone missed that move. Oh, man, and Tari is going to take it home here.
Yeah, now this position is resignable against someone like Tari. Down in exchange, down a pawn. So Aryan's going to get the win. He's going to give Mizzou a 5-point lead. Yeah, Jules, do you want to go back to the bird's eye view and see what's going on in the other games?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Right, so Checa winning has just won on board number 1. Arthur Guo better on board 2. Antipov, wow, that is an exciting game between Antipov and Maximilian Lu. So Antipov has the queen against the rook and the bishop. Very interesting stuff what's going on there.
Yeah, it feels like it should be. It feels like it should be a little bit difficult for Maximilian here with 13 seconds versus 2 minutes and 54 seconds, but he's been playing it very well. Maybe with this 2-second increment, it can be enough.
Right, let's see. Yeah, I mean, especially the time, like I said, is very tough for black. But for the moment, he's having a very solid construction there on the king side. He goes bishop b4 check, tricky move and bishop back. Maybe Antipov could also give up the rook, take a pawn over here, but that's going to hang h4. Let's see, I'm sure he will try to put his time advantage to work somehow, but it's not easy to do so.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could try to keep that h-pawn somehow and go for that tactic, or just, make some threats. But it does seem like Maximilian Lu is defending very, very well.
Yeah, but in the meantime, Arthur Go won his game on board number 2. So right now it's 4-2 for Mizzou. But this game, I feel like with the rooks off the board should just be a draw. Like pretty much as a fortress there with the bishop on g6. And the rook can easily defend everything as well. So this game should be a draw. Aryan Tari won his game. So we're probably going to be looking at a 5.5, 2.5 lead after this round for Mizzou.
I mean, that is great for Mizzou going into round 3. I mean, they could even win it in round 3. They'll still be playing round 4 because of tie breaks, but it's very possible.
Perhaps Antipov still trying some stuff, moving that king up to g5, but you also have to be careful that you don't get checkmated all of a sudden. So let's see. The pawn on e5 is under attack. Don't go f4. f6 would be checkmate. Oh, that's just a free rook.
And there goes the rook, and Antipov sees the win with the resignation. Oh, and that is a point for Mizzou. And after such beautiful play by Maximilian Lu, that must be devastating. Absolutely devastating. And here we see a 2-6 lead for Mizzou. They only need 2.5 points going into round 3.
Yeah, that's pretty tough for Yale. They really fought their hearts out in this round, played really well. But they're back to where they were. They're still behind by 4 points. And I don't see this Mizzou team giving such a big lead away. Really tough for Maximilian Lu, who played an amazing game, but at the end he hung his rook in one move.
Yeah, I mean, it happens when you get so low on time, and he was defending so well, but you can't just always keep it up. So that means Yale's going to really need to come back. They cannot even lose, 2.5 points. They're just going to need to keep it going if they want to have a chance in round 4, make up some points and do their best. And here we see it. We're going to see Nico Checa versus Luca. We're going to see Arthur versus Isaac, Max versus Mikhail Antipov, and Lyndon Lee versus Aryan Tari. So I don't know. What do you think Yale's possibilities are here in this next round?
Yeah, it's tough for Yale, right? So we see Checa against. No, wait, those were the pairings of last round. I guess we're soon gonna get ready for the next round.
Oh, I guess we haven't updated that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see them coming back. I mean, this Mizzou team just too strong. And in the meantime, we have the Mizzou coach, Christian Karila, in the chat saying Aryan doesn't mess around this match.
Have you been laying down the law there? I bet it's pizza for the winners and laps of running for the losers there. But Aryan has been playing excellently this season. We'll see if it continues here in this match.
Yep. All right, so we're gonna get ready for round number 3, and we have our board pairings. So Checa is gonna be taking on Tari, Arthur Go against Antipov, Maximilian Lu against Isaac Chan, and Lyndon Lee against Luka Budasalvic. But yeah, 4-point lead for Mizzou is a lot. If they win this round by any margin, they will reach 8.5 points at least, and they would clinch the match. So let's see if that's gonna happen. Either way, the last round we will still play the last round because it does matter for board points.
Yeah, it does absolutely matter for points, and there's a chance that Yale is able to come back this round and at least tighten up the score, but Mizzou's been dominating so far.
Yep. All right. Okay. So we're getting ready for round number 3. Aryan playing with white pieces on T-Pov as well, so they'll probably try to do some damage. And yeah, Yale is gonna have to. I mean, Yale's best chance again. They are still on the top 2 boards, but they're having the black pieces in this round, so not easy for them.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy for them, but none of this round was ever going to be easy for them. Although Checa does seem to be making a comeback here. Maybe he can get a point on one of those boards. But against Tari, it's a very difficult opponent. I'm excited to see what openings they play here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So we're still waiting for round number 3. Okay. So I predict Aryan's just going to play e4 and Checa will stick to his French. That's my prediction for this game.
And maybe he'll punish it with an exchange French, and then no one will have fun. You never know. So there's always options.
Yep. All right. So let's see if that's going to happen. Or, in the last game, Tari played 1 d4, so we might see that as well. On T-Pov, he's really a 1 e4 player, so I expect that from him. Maximilian Lu, we can expect anything. He might just go like 1 knight h3 or 1 knight a3. I think I've seen him do stuff like that. Anyway, Tari played 1 d4, and he's gonna maybe play like the London or something, and there we have it, avoiding major theory.
All right, we see e4, e5. Probably going to see a Spanish here.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, and on board 2 we have a Spanish for knights. It's actually also what Antivo played against me in a recent Title Tuesday. I chose to move bishop b4 here. Let's see what Arthur Go has in mind. And Aryan Tari, yeah, very solid stuff. This kind of looks like an exchange Caro-Kann as well. And I called it. Maximilian Lu plays 1 knight h3. e5 by Susquehanna and d4. Yeah, I've seen Maximilian play this in other CCL matches. Let's see how it works out for him this time around. But I guess at least this move, 1 knight h3, gives you the advantage of throwing your opponent off early on.
Yeah, and we're still waiting for that board 4 to start. And we see it, d4. And okay, I thought we were going to go into Nimzo, but perhaps not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we see Lyndon Lee. Okay, so Luca again plays that delayed Banco Gambit with a6 and b5. And the evil bar already makes a big jump down in the game between Maximilian Lu and Susquehanna. So I don't know if. So I guess we'll let's see what's going to happen there. Okay. Anyway, so let's see what's going on. So on T-Pov's game, we have some interesting development. Knight c4 hitting the knight on c3. Yeah, the computer really doesn't like what Maximilian is doing in his game. That knight on h3 always just looks off, and black is a nice bishop pair. So the opening clearly has backfired. And the computer is also saying that Luca's opening also is not too convincing, but there's some imbalance. There's a lot of pieces on the board. Still anything that can happen. Queen e6 check, that looks a little uncomfortable to deal with. So what does the chat think? What does the chat think? Do you guys think Mizzou is just going to win, or do you all still believe in a comeback for Yale? I honestly don't. I think Mizzou is just going to run to victory. But you never know. You never know in the CCL. Anyway, we see on T-Pov's game some trades on c3, bishop drop back to e7. Queen g4 now looks annoying. So pawn on g7 is a little awkward to defend. But yeah, honestly, right now it's looking pretty good for Mizzou on almost all of the boards. So we might see them winning this round big again. Checa plays bishop g6. We might see Tari trade there with the knight or the bishop. He chooses to trade with the knight and now tries to send his other knight to e5. So really instructive stuff here by Tari, showing us all how to play these structures where with e takes d5, c takes d5. It can happen in many different openings. It can happen in the Caro-Kann, in the London, also with colors reversed in the Queen's Gambit decline. And I really like what he's doing. He goes a3 now, stopping b4. And what I expect him to do there on board number 1 is at some point to go like g3 and h4. Checa going bishop d6, offering a trade of bishops to eliminate Tari's bishop pair, but I expect Tari to keep that bishop on the board. Maybe he's going to move it back to like d2 or c1 or move it one step forward to g5, but I think he will want to keep those bishops on the board, keeping the advantage of the bishop pair. Perhaps bishop g5 could be interesting. So let's see if that's what he's going to do. Things still look tough for Maximilian. I mean, really nice move there by Izek, pawn to g5, making sure that knight on h3 cannot jump back. Yeah, I mean, one knight h3 is a risky move, and it seems like it has backfired. Meantime, Tari played knight e5. And we've reached an endgame in the game between Lyndon Lee and Luka Budisavljevic. But should be more or less even. Luka having a nice center. So plenty of chances for both sides. So let's see how that game will develop. All right, so queen c7 by Checa, putting more pressure on the knight. Arthur playing d6, tricky move, threatening bishop g4 there on board number 2 against Antipov. They would skewer the queen and the rook, so that's something Antipov has to look out for. And I don't know, every time I look at the game between Izek and Maximilian Lou, it feels like that evil bar has dropped further and further in black's favor. Oh wait, the white queen I think is getting trapped. If you go to b4, there's c5, and if you go to a4, there's bishop d7. So we might see Izek getting a very early win here. White's just losing a lot of material. Maybe you have to go like queen b4, c5, knight takes c5, but this is going to be a win for Izek. It looks just completely winning. Yeah, there we go. And Maximilian resigned. So Mizzou now opening up a 5-point lead. They only need another 1.5 points to win the match. Let's see if they can close things out in this round. Aryan going for the trade on c6. I don't quite like that decision. Really like the knight on e5. Checa can also take the bishop on f4. But maybe that knight e7 is a possibility with some sacrifices perhaps for Tari. I'm sure he's looking at like knight e7, king e8, bishop g6. But I guess Checa has an in-between move. Something like bishop g6, knight f6 might be there. Antipov up 2 pawns. No, wait, sorry, up 1 pawn. It's Arthur Groh. But the pawns on the queen side are rather weak. So let's see what Arthur is going to do. In the meantime, by the way, Lyndon, I feel like is fighting pretty well in the endgame against Luka. Things looking even there. And wow, thank you to Nicolas Checa for the 47 months subscription to my channel and for the 1,000 bits. Thank you so much, Nicolas. For those of you who don't know Nicolas, he's a big supporter of the chess community on Twitch. So big shout out to him. All right, so let's see what's going to happen. Again, things looking pretty even between Lyndon and Luka. It's a bit of a pity with Aryan soon. That knight moved all the way back to c2. So maybe Checa, as the board 1 for Yale, can bring them back in the match. I really like what he's doing. Bishop back to d6 potentially, and then he's ready to go b4 to do some damage on the queen side. Aryan, he will be looking to do something on the king side, but it's not so easy to do so because the knight on f6 is stopping that h5 push. So I like Checa's position. Antipov better against Groh, and right now I'm sure Antipov is looking at a sacrifice. Like rook d takes e6, pawn takes e6, queen takes e6. Looks very interesting. Let's see if he's gonna go for it. He might. He definitely might. He's definitely looking at it. Oh, but in the meantime, Lyndon Lee is winning against Luka. He's up the exchange. Let's see if he can finish this one off. I mean, Luka, he has a pawn, he has a bishop, so this is far from over, but that would be a huge upset. It'd be great for Lyndon Lee, and that perhaps could give them the push they need to get back in this match. Antipov, by the way, went for that sacrifice. King g7, only moved by Arthur Groh. And we see some more developments in the game between Tari and Checa. So we'll see how all of these games play out. Looking pretty even on board 1, Antipov better on board 2, but the question is, how do you go forward? Queen d6, preparing rook e7, but it might be too slow, because rook e7 can still be met with king h6. So now maybe like rook d8 or something. And yeah, things could be shifting the other way. Lyndon Lee, by the way, is winning against Luka, but how do you finish this off? Not so easy. Bishop takes d5 runs to bishop takes c3, and knight takes d5 runs into rook takes e6. So still a lot of work there to be done for white. Let's see what he's going to do. I mean, again, this is far from over, especially against a GM like Luka. Meantime, in the game between Arthur Groh and Antipov, rook f8 and rook e7 was played. The king can go to h6 or h8. Let's see which square he will choose. goes to h8. Queen e5 has to be met with queen f6. In the meantime, black threatening queen takes f2. So very interesting stuff. I mean, we could see Yale getting wins on all of the other boards. And if they do so, they would definitely give themselves a chance going into the final round. They would only be down 7-5. They would definitely still give them chances. But I don't like e5 by Checa. Now Aryan trades. And this looks comfortably better for Tari on board number 1. His bishop on c4 is always putting nice pressure on the pawn on f7. Maybe just g3, king g2. So lots of action. Jules, what do you think about all of the games that are going on?
With the time difference we see in Checa versus Tari, Tari is going to need to move a little bit quicker.
Yeah, Tari down on time, but he is better on the board. He goes king g2. Again, the bishop on c4 is putting nice pressure on f7. So I feel like even though he's low on time, the position is rather simplified. So it's hard for Checa to take advantage of his time advantage. No,
It is hard for him to take.
Lyndon Lee gave a draw against Luca. He was better.
Sometimes you just don't see it, especially against such a high-rated player. It can be difficult.
Yes, but his team is behind, and this is such an opportunity to try to beat a GM. He really had to play on there.
Absolutely. It definitely would have been the best move. You just get intimidated sometimes and don't want to lose the game. It's very random. But you have to remember that you're playing for a team and every single win counts.
Yep, and every draw counts as well for Mizzou. That's going to bring them closer and closer to match victory. They now only need one more win. Let's see if they can get it. So we see on T-Pop, he's down the exchange for a pawn. He has those double T-pawns. Can push the pawn on c4 forward, and the pawn on c2 is always defending the bishop, but Arthur Go pushing his own pawn forward. So anything can still happen there. Aryan Tari comfortably better with white pieces, because again, the bishop on c4 is putting pressure on f7. He's having that open a file. The rook can slide it like a6, maybe then a b6, hitting the pawn on b4, rook b7, also an idea. And I don't see any active ideas for Checa, so I like Aryan's chances, even though he's down on, although the time is actually evened up by now.
By the way, Nicolas, thank you so much for the sub. And B-Dubs, thank you for the 5 subs. I really appreciate you all there. Wasn't feeling too good, but back now. Happy to be here. And here we see Checa versus Aryan Tari. Alrighty. I always hate these structures with that g6 pawn because it feels very difficult to break through.
Yeah, I mean, black is a little stuck there with the pawns on f7, g6, and g7. So rook a6 by Aryan, threatening rook takes g6 perhaps. And 92 by Checa, going for simplifications. He wants to get rid of that bishop on c4. It's so annoying, but now maybe just queen d5, offering the queen trade. I feel like even in the endgame, white has a nagging advantage because, again, there's always pressure on f7. The pawn on b4 can be weak. You now have to deal with the threat on the bishop. So I guess just rook a5. That's also what the computer is pointing out. Aryan getting dangerously low on time, by the way.
Yeah, 11 seconds, and we do have a 2-second increment, so it's 5 plus 2. But as we've seen, people make mistakes. We just saw a rook be hung with a 2 seconds increment.
Oh, wow. No, Arthur Go, he hung a full rook. That's rough. That's rough. So Antipov is going to get the win there, and that will be the end of the match. Yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah, and we see it. That is the end of the match. It means Mizzou is taking home the match. However, everything is still finished for tiebreak points, of course. And that leaves this last game, Checa versus Tari.
Yeah, looking pretty good for Tari. He is going to collect the pawn on b4, and still tough for Checa to defend. I think he has to get rid of that bishop on c4. That's why he goes 92. Good move. Tari recaptures with a rook d3, b4, I suppose. And now rook b3, at least making sure that it's hard for white to make progress here.
Absolutely, but now Checa is also getting low on time, so it might become a little bit more even with this time management here.
Tari pushing the pawn at g5. I wonder what exactly the idea is. Now, what white would like to do is bring the king over to the queen side, but the moment you do that, you're going to hang your pawns on the king side. So let's see if Checa can hold this one. He should. It should be a draw with correct play.
Should, but it feels like very difficult to draw under any sort of time pressure. But he is keeping his time up a little bit more. I'm not sure. This seems a little stressful to kind of try to hold here.
Oh, and Aryan, I don't know why b6 was not played there. Looked pretty natural. but perhaps he gets a chance to redeem himself. He goes h5 instead. Okay, f5, there's still rook h6 or b6 first, so that doesn't draw on the spot. Let's see if Aryan can squeeze out a win here.
I think it's possible. And maybe now b6? Oh.
Rook b3. Again, it's hard for Aryan to bring that king over. Should be a draw with correct play, but Aryan's definitely still trying.
He's still pushing, and that's exactly what you need to do for your team, even though, as we said, they won the match. Aryan doesn't know that yet. For all he knows, he could be the point that wins the match here.
Right, but Checa defending well. King f4, going for counterplay on the king side. So king c2, you just go rook b5. And we might see a situation where white's going to bring their king up, and eventually black might have to give up the rook for the pawn. But in the meantime, black's going to take on f3, go f4, and then what often happens is that white has to give up their rook for the f-pawn. So I think we're just headed for a draw.
It's definitely possible that we're just headed for a draw here, and that would still be just enough for Mizzou. So I think they'd be happy with that. Checa, of course, I mean, can't really push for the win here, so.
Yep. All right, and we'll see that play out. Yeah, both sides had to give up their rooks for the pawn, and so Aryan draws this game, which is giving Mizzou a 9-3 lead going into the final round. So they've already won the match. Let's see how many board points they can stack up for tiebreaks.
Exactly. Tiebreaks always matter, so we play this fourth round here, which we're going to see shortly. It will be the board 1 versus board 1, and so on. So that's always very exciting.
Absolutely. So here we see the scorecards. Antipov really leading the team. He's 3 out of 3. Aryan Tari, decent performance as well, 2.5 out of 3. Luka is the worst performing player on Mizzou, but he's on 50%. And again, if your worst performing player is 50%, you're gonna win a lot of matches. Ishik, 2 out of 3. Not a fantastic score, but he's getting points on the board, and yeah, that's why Mizzou is leading by such a big score.
Yeah, exactly. Mizzou's been playing very, very well. Yale still trying to hold their own here, but we'll see if they're able to at least stack up a little bit more points here in round 4 coming up, because it will be Nico versus Mikhail Antipov, GM Arthur Guo versus GM Aryan Tari, IM Max Liu versus GM Luka, and then NM Lyndon Lee versus IM, well now GM Yuzek Khan. So all the boards against their corresponding boards. It could be interesting to see some of these matchups.
Yep, we're getting ready for round number 4. Yeah, Lyndon Lee, he got on the scoreboard, which is nice against such a strong team as Mizzou, but again, he really missed an opportunity to perhaps get a win against a GM. You don't get those every day. Anyway, let's see what's going to happen in the final round. I think Mizzou will just try to, steamroll through, try to get as many points as possible. I don't see any quick draws or anything like that happen because, why not? It's Blitz, why not just try to have some fun?
Absolutely, and the games are getting started here, so I'm not sure what this started out from. Probably looks like a Banco.
Well, it's actually called a Blumenfeld in the game between Checa and Antipov. So very interesting stuff. Antipov sacrificed the pawn there, but Checa did not accept it. So it's kind of a mix between a Benoni and a Banco. So let's see how this one will play out. I'm sure that Checa is aiming to follow with a quick e4, hitting that pawn on b5. But we'll definitely see some combative chess on the first board.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we get through, I think maybe some of the players will relax and have a little bit of fun.
Yep. All right, so yeah, we're definitely seeing some fun chess on the first board. Let's see what's going to happen in the game between Arthur Guo and Aryan Tari. As we're waiting for Arthur to make his first move. I think he's just going to play 1e4, and I'm curious what we can expect from Tari. All right, on board number 3, we have Luka Burisalvic against Maximilian Liu, and then Ishik Chan against Lyndon Lee. So lots of exciting action to look forward to. Let's see what is going to happen. And yeah, okay, so Queen e4, interesting move by Checa. Perhaps aiming to take on f6 and give Antipov the doubled isolated f-pawns. Antipov just goes d6. He's like, go ahead, take an f6. Because if you do take, white is giving up the bishop pair, so that move has its drawback. Again, I'm kind of confused that the game on board 2 hasn't started yet, because I would think usually the games are staggered by 15 seconds or 30 seconds. I would expect it to have started by now, but it hasn't. Checa did go for that trade and played a3. Now Antipov can take on c3, but he can also go bishop a5 if he wants to keep the bishop pair on the board. Let's see what he will do. Either way, Looks like black should have a fine endgame. If you take on c3, maybe you want to follow with a quick knight d7 to b6 to put some pressure on that pawn on d5. But after the trade, Checa has the idea to go for a quick a4. And Antipov goes bishop a5. I like that decision better, keeping the bishop pair on the board, but the computer doesn't agree with me. Says that now Checa is better. The queenside castles could backfire, because black has the majority on the queenside, and even in the endgame, that could definitely count for something. We see now in the bird's eye view that the moves are flying in. We see a reload pass in the game between Arthur Go and Tari. The game between Luca and Maximilian hasn't started yet. And on board 4, we see a Caro-Kann between Ijik Chan and Lyndon Lee. And Lyndon Lee going for this line with h5 and h4, which might look odd to newer players, but it's actually a completely valid line. So how everything will play out. Okay, board number 3 has started. I don't know if Luca knew that the last game would still be played, even though they have already won the match. He opened up with a London. So let's see what Maximilian will do now. 94 by Tari, interesting stuff. And okay, so Antipov going for a very interesting maneuver. He went king d8 to c7. And now what he can do is maybe go like h4, rook a to g8, and put some pressure on those pawns on the king side. Oh, and apparently what Checa was doing was not good, but I don't know why not. I like what Antipov was doing. Both kings are walking up the board in different ways. Checa's king is in f4, and Antipov is aiming for the c5 square now for his king. If the king would land there, knight takes c3 would be a threat. So very interesting stuff here. We'll see how everything plays out again. Also a very interesting game between Arthur Go and Aryan Tari. Board number 2. Board 3 looking pretty slow so far with the London system. And on board 4, also a nice imbalance with that Caro-Kann structure. And wow, Luca turns this into a stonewall with a quick f4, but it's weakening some squares. And that's why Maximilian went 97 to f5 to try to take advantage of it. Very interesting stuff in all of the games. g5 by Antipov. Let's see what's going to happen there next. Maybe just h4 by Checa. Push that rook away. Although that could weaken the pawn on g3. So let's see. He goes rook b1, perhaps aiming to go a4, chip away that black pawn structure on the queen side. c6 by Tari. So let's see what is going to happen. Yeah, let me know what you all think in the chat. By the way, I just realized that we had a prediction earlier, but that should have already come to an end because Mizzou has won the match. And wow, thanks to Aquila for 39 months with Prime to my channel. Imagine being Yale, not a single board for Mizzou that you exactly. No, this Mizzou team is stacked. This Mizzou team is stacked. It's going to be between Mizzou and SLU again this year. I kind of predict them to face off again in the final. Again, big thank you to Aquila, and thank you. I hope you're doing well too. I've been doing well, thanks. It's great to be here for the Collegiate Chess League. It's been a lot of fun being here every week. I missed the first 2 weeks because of Tata Steel, but it's good to be back in a commentary booth. Oh, and the game between Luca and Maximilian just ends in a draw. Okay, because both players just wanted to get it over with and move on. I mean, they're both university students. I'm sure they have a lot going on with, they have their chess, they have homework, classes, and they might have some extracurriculars as well. Anyway, so let's see. The game between Checa and Antipov is heating up. Antipov getting that rook to the second rank, hitting the pawn on h2. So let's see what's going to happen there. And wow, that game between Aryan Tari and Arthur Go, I feel like some very interesting stuff is happening there. Bishop b3, a5. Aryan threatening to trap the bishop with a4. But now maybe Arthur can go knight takes... No, wait. Is knight takes e5 a move here? If black goes knight takes e5, there's bishop takes d4. And knight takes b3 can be met with knight takes g6, knight takes e1, knight takes h8. So perhaps that's why the evil bar went up here in white's favor. I mean, knight takes e5 looks definitely interesting for me. Let's see if he will go for it. All right, so he went bishop takes d4, but that's not the move. But Jules, what do you think about all of the games that are currently ongoing?
I mean, it's already over because Mizzou has their score. They've got all the points they need. So it does seem like the players are taking it seriously, that they can have a little bit of fun here. I really do love the opening we're seeing in Tari versus Guo. It seems to be going a little bit interestingly for Guo there.
Yeah, Arthur just took on d4 and played knight g5, threatening bishop takes f7. Let's see what Aryan's going to do now. Maybe just knight e5 to defend everything. Maybe Arthur has f4 there. This game is certainly heating up. Also d5, by the way. Maybe that's the move White should go for. Black should go for, sorry. Let's see what Aryan's going to do. But yeah, this board's on fire. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, definitely we've got a lot of interesting stuff going on here. And I don't know, it just kind of allows the players to be a little bit more relaxed once the match is already over and they're just playing for tiebreak points, which I think Yale might need.
Yeah, all right. So let's perhaps go to that game between Arthur Guo and Aryan Tari. I mean, a lot of stuff happening there. Aryan just played d5, and the computer is giving that move a exclamation mark. Nice move. He's blocking the diagonal. White can go knight takes d5, sacrificing the knight, takes, and bishop takes d5. Bishop takes d5, hitting the rook in the corner and the pawn on f7, but Black would still have rook a7 there. So he went e takes d5 instead, and Aryan goes a4. Apparently the right move to win a piece.
Yeah, I mean, what else do you do? You're losing your bishop no matter what, and I'm not sure how the bishop just got trapped there in the first place, but it does not seem convenient anymore.
Yeah, no, Aryan went for some pawn pushes with b5, a5, a4. Arthur went for some aggressive stuff, but it seems to be backfiring as Aryan is winning a piece here. But yeah, it's still very much a game. Arthur should be able to get a pawn or two for the piece. So we'll see how this one will play out. But Jules, I think we should go back to the bird's eye view as there's some exciting action going on. Lyndon Lee, he got a draw in the last game, but in this game, he's completely winning against Ishik. Rook takes e3 is game over. F takes g3, queen g3. And he finds it. Amazing stuff by Lyndon, and I think he's just going to win this game. I don't see Ishik coming back from this.
Yeah, and I mean that is a great prize for Yale there, getting that last round victory. I bet Lyndon's pretty happy about that, and he's just been playing a very good game too.
Yep, great game here by him. So let's see what is going on. I mean, he's up a rook and a knight, and rook g3. Wow, what a move. Threatening checkmate on g2. And if you take that rook, you recapture with the pawn, checkmate. So White's going to have to push up their f-pawn with like f3, but White's down so much material. I mean, yeah, this looks rough. Bishop takes f3. Wow, such great stuff by Lyndon Lee, sacrificing everything.
And I just got word that after the match, the interview will be with Ishik, so that will be very, very exciting there. But yeah, Lyndon Lee's been playing this fantastically.
All right, so rook d2 by Ishik to defend, but it's just way too much. I wonder if there's already checkmate. I don't quite see it just yet, but just taking on g4, again, you're up so much material that this should just be an easy one for Black. But it can always happen that when you're winning against such a strong player, you can always get nervous, right? It can always happen. Oh, that's a nice finish. Take and queen g1. And Lyndon Lee wins a great game.
Lyndon Lee.
Yep.
Absolutely. It did not happen to Lyndon Lee. He's just showing absolute confidence here, finishing it off. I mean, there are only 2 games left to this match.
Yeah, but it looks like Aryan is winning. At the moment, he's up 2 bishops. The knight on e5 is pinned, but is White actually winning it back? We'll find out soon enough. Also, c7 is a threat, by the way, hitting the queen and the rook in the corner. But it all looks like it's just way too much that Arthur has given up. He's also down to 26 seconds. So I expect Aryan to win this one. But you never know. Let's see. In the meantime, Checa playing a great game against Antipov. Some very interesting stuff right there. Rook takes f6, perhaps. So, yeah, let's see what's going to happen.
Checa's a dangerous player. He definitely has the capacity to play some of these amazing games. Seemed like he was a little bit asleep in that first game and then absolutely woke up in time to take on Antipov, who is honestly the big boss of CCL this match.
Right, so let's see if he's going to go rook takes f6. I really like that move. If you, perhaps we can go to that game because the Aryan's game is also just finished. So Checa's game is the last one of the match. Mizzou winning this match with, I mean, we'll calculate the scores, but it's going to be a big score. Let's try to dive into that one. I think right now rook takes f6 is the move for Checa, and king takes g5. You're going to take an h5, and you will get 3 pawns for the exchange. This should just be a win for Checa. If he takes on h5, you can also just start pushing that g pawn forward, but still some work to be done. Let's see how Antipov will try to make his job difficult.
Absolutely. And I mean, Antipov is also a little bit down on time. So down on time, down on position. I think this will go to Checa.
Yep. King g5, okay, a slow move. Okay. So Antipov brings the king back. Should be a win. Okay. 8, perhaps you have to try to dislodge White's position somehow, as otherwise White slowly but surely gonna push forward. He goes knight h4 to g6, f5. Really nice technique here by Checa. I don't think there's anything Antipov can do. Really nice stuff here.
All well defended, and you know, you still have to fight on for your team, but you're right. It looks like that's exactly what's going to happen here. Moving away, and everything's defended. Those pawns are racing. Best 3 pawns to have on the board.
Yep. All right, so still some more technique required, but he can just always move the knight around, find a way to defend his pawns, slowly but surely push forward. So knight f4, nice stuff here. I guess aiming to go to f6, then move the king forward, g5, just slowly but surely move everything forward, and eventually you're going to promote.
Absolutely, and we'll see the promotion soon, but it just takes this technique. It takes it paying off, and Antipov still has to do everything he can. But we see it. Nicolas Checa has won, and that was a good point for Yale. Even though Mizzou won the match, a nice finish for Nicolas there.
Yeah, no, great win for Nicolas. I think Yale is winning this round, but this Mizzou team was just way too strong all around, and they win this match convincingly.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, congratulations to Mizzou. It's going to be very exciting for them. As we see, Nico Checa won the point. Antipov did not, but Nico Checa got 1.5 out of 3. Actually, hasn't updated quite yet. But everyone's been playing very well. We saw a great last round finish for Lyndon Lee there with 1.5 out of 4 as board 4, very strong. Aryan Tari, probably MVP there with a 3.5 out of 4. Huge, huge congratulations to Mizzou. By the way, everyone's favorite weekly event, Title Tuesday, just got doubly exciting, with more and more title players joining the likes of Hikaru, Magnus, and Jose Martinez in the weekly Blitz tournament. We've decided to double the prize pot for the first Title Tuesday that reaches 1,000 players, which means players who finish in the top 30 will earn a cash prize. Will it happen tomorrow? Use !2x in chat or visit go.chess.com/double for all the details. Don't go anywhere, the interview with Isaac is up next.
Looking for new ways to enjoy chess? Check out our schedule of Chess.com community events today. Mondays, play Rapid Opening Roulette and expand your opening repertoire with a new opening each month. Tuesdays, compete against other Untitled players in Untitled Tuesday. Battle your way to the top in Arena Kings on Wednesdays. And finish the week off each Saturday with the blistering Community Bullet Brawl. All happening in the Community Club on Chess.com.
Do you think you're a better chess player than me?
Oh, we're starting. Oh, wow. You're just throwing it right back to me. Yes, unequivocally. I think I'm a better chess player than a lot of people who I'm not higher rated than.
Seeing a lot of increase in blood pressure.
Okay. I'm staring over there to see the answer. Okay.
Does that mean...
This is good.
Does that mean...
I mean, there's a little deception indicated.
Oh, wow. I don't even know I'm lying.
Okay.
That's a deeper problem.
I think you're trying to pump up yourself, maybe.
Oh, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm probably just probably scaring me.
Yeah. Would you rather be competing in events than covering them?
No.
You love covering them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's truthful.
Have you ever considered quitting your chess creator career to pursue another career?
Maybe, but not anytime soon.
But you have thought about it?
Yeah, of course.
Truthful.
Have you ever pretended to know a celebrity, even though you've never actually met them?
No, I don't think so. Why would I ever do that?
I don't know. Just asking.
Don't see anything there.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good to know.
Maybe. I don't know.
There you go. I love it. Are you afraid to chess box?
Yes. Yes. Depends on the... Yes.
Do you like Andrea Botez?
Yes. A little bit. I mean, you know, just... She's not terrible.
What, is he lying on that?
Well, not when he says he's not terrible.
It's so good.
She's not terrible. You know,
Okay.
could be worse people.
Do you ever get your feelings hurt by YouTube comments?
Never.
Truthful on that.
Do you ever get your feelings hurt by any social media comments toward you?
No, not really.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Collegiate Chess League presented by Susquehanna. We are joined by Ishik John, who is waiting for his GM title to be confirmed. Ishik, how does it feel to win this match against Yale? Because you guys had a pretty interesting matchup against them at the Pan Ams. You guys had to win the last round, but you didn't. So does it feel like you're taking revenge here for this match?
Yeah, it kind of does, to be honest. I mean, I cannot say it on my behalf, but when you're in such a great team, even if you do not perform the greatest, your teammates got your back. So yeah, I'm happy to be in the winning team, and also we kind of got our revenge back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know that not qualifying for the Final Four is never taken lightly by the coaches. So yeah, but you guys are doing great in the Collegiate Chess League. You guys are in the lead. So how do you guys feel about your chances to win it all again this season? Because you're defending the champions. Do you feel like SLU is going to be your closest rival again this season, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for sure SLU will be our greatest competitors, like their rival, I would say, because like they got Ohanian, who is very good at Blitz this year. They got Aryan Chopra, who is like very strong GM. Also Gazik transferred and stuff. So yeah, they got very stronger. But I still think we'll beat them, and I still think that we'll defend our title this league too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, Coach Varakobian definitely got some strong reinforcements during the winter break, and yeah, I just hope you guys will face off again in the finals, because that's always an exciting matchup, and may the best team win. And also, yeah, maybe Ishik, I think this is your first time.
I cannot hear you right now.
Can you still hear me? Or
in Charlotte and St. Louis, so I can say that USA really helped me, and yeah, everything is working for me right now, as it seems.
Okay, yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, you played really well both in Charlotte and in St. Louis, and I think that guaranteed your Grandmaster title. So when do you think you'll get the Grandmaster title, and what are your other aspirations after that?
Are you asking chess-wise or generally?
Can be both. Can be both.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I think I'll get my title around March. I am going to play in European Individual, which is very, very important tournament and also going to be very tough. So I am doing everything to prepare to that tournament. So obviously, as everyone's goal, I want to qualify for FIDE World Cup. And besides that, my classes are always been my primary focus, so I'm also working hard on them, and it's also going very well. Also, besides that, I'm playing tennis and I'm playing for the university. So I'm also competing in tennis in university level, so that's also going to be exciting for me this semester.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I mean, how did you make it to the tennis team? Did you just join the tryouts and they were like, oh, this guy's not only good at chess, he's also good at tennis, or how did that work out?
Yeah, actually, it's like I wanted to play tennis professionally until I was like 16. I always loved tennis a lot, and it's very different with chess. Sometimes when you're just sitting and sitting, you just want to move, you just want to run, and like tennis is a great way to, I would say, just relax, and that's why, yeah, I've been playing tennis all my life, and coming here. Thank you guys very much.
All right, thanks for joining us, Ishik. All right, so yeah, looking ahead, so it was great having Ishik join us for the broadcast. So let's look ahead at what we have for next week. Next week, we also have some exciting matchups. We have Mizzou, our current leaders, against University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley. Big matchup there. Both teams are backed by scholarships. Then we have Yale against St. Louis University, SRM against Athens, and then Lviv against University of Virginia. So we'll see if Mizzou and St. Louis can continue their perfect streak. It looks like both teams have great chances of making it into the semifinals. So it's going to be exciting. And yeah, so really appreciate everyone for watching. We're going to be wrapping up for now. But again, big thank you to everyone. Jules, my co-commentator, Ishik for joining us, the producers behind the scenes, and everyone in the chat. So we're going to be wrapping up. And we will see you all next week when the Collegiate Chess League presented by Susquehanna continues. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.